With that, I will call to order this meeting of the Easthampton Planning Board for Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. All members are appearing remotely and we are recording the meeting. Just as a preliminary matter, if anything happens tonight where we're not able to finish this hearing, all of these items will be continued to November 24th or anything that we haven't gotten to. So just be aware of that. First of all, is there anyone here that would like to speak to something that is not on the agenda? Everyone will have a chance to comment on specific projects, but if you have something to speak to that's not on the agenda, you can either raise your virtual hand on Zoom or turn on your video and raise your actual hand. I think *9 on a cell phone raises a hand, or you could just, if you're desperate, unmute and ask to speak. Not seeing anything, so we will move on to the first public hearing. This is a continued public hearing for Cynthia Steplar, seeking a special permit and stormwater management permit under section 8.3 and 12.7 of the zoning ordinance and 12-76 of the city ordinance for the construction of an 18-unit multifamily residential development comprised of 10 buildings and all associated driveways, parking areas, and associated work. Property is located at 69 and 73 Loudville Road and is in the R35 zoning district. Is there someone here for the applicant that would like to address this?
Jessica Allen here with R. Levesque Associates.
Jessica, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. So I think we got some supplemental material since our last hearing. You want to walk us through what has been submitted?
Sure. And we have one additional item to present to the board tonight. So,
okay.
So the first item that was submitted to the board was in response to board members' concerns regarding the scale, mass of the architecture of the proposed development in relation to Loudville Road. We provided further analysis in a quarter-mile run along Loudville Road that provided additional photographs, building footprints, and more information pulled from the assessor's data, including gross area for the units and architectural detailing and actual year built, just to give a sense of the flavor of the housing up and down in that stretch, about a quarter-mile stretch. So what we believe this has found is that our proposed units fit within the scale. They meet the definition of harmony. If you're looking at harmony and how elements are combined to be similar or how they relate to one another, the architectural detailing on the proposed units, whether it's the roof line, whether it's the building materials, whether it's the vertical siding, roof pitches, all of that is consistent with the types of roofs and elements that you find along this stretch of Loudville Road. We did note that the building footprint and the visuals that have been provided to you were a one-car garage and not a two-car garage that was shown in the site plans. So even doing a quick back of the envelope with a 86 by 56 footprint, and what that would translate very roughly to gross square footage, taking into account maybe a 75% difference between the first floor and the second floor. We're still looking at around 8,400 total gross square feet of the duplex itself, which still fits within the range of the gross area of the architecture and the units within the Loudville Road area. The second piece of information that we'd like to present tonight is we've modified the site plan slightly to accommodate for the one-car garage in two locations in two of the proposed units. So if I may, I'd like to be able to share the site plan with the board, if that would be okay.
Sure.
Curtis, you're still, I don't have the ability. Can you make Jessica a co-host?
Sure.
Thanks.
Jessica, I've made you co-host, and Jeff, I'm going to make you host. Now, if you wouldn't mind, whenever you have an opportunity making me co-host, you now have the maximum power.
Okay, so these were updated very, very slightly, and I do want to show you where the update has occurred. So as you can see, and maybe it's a little bit difficult to see, but you'll see that on units 2-3, building here, which is directly behind Mrs. Stepler's house, and unit 4-5 over here, we've modified these designs to, or the footprints to be smaller, more consistent with what you saw in the comparison document that we provided the board, for a couple of reasons. One, we believe that these are the units that are going to be the most visible from Loudville Road. The rest of these units are very much tucked in and will not be able to be visible from the road. But these two units, because of the break in the vegetation here, there could be glimpses of the units as one is driving along Loudville Road. And so the footprints have been reduced to have a one-car garage only within these locations. That is the only modification to the set of side plans, is to modify these two units to be a smaller footprint than what was previously presented. The resulting grading, it was to accommodate this change, was very minor, and everything has been represented in these site plans. But really, it's a very simple switch to go from these larger footprints to the smaller footprints right here along the road, essentially because of the visibility of those two units from Loudville Road as you travel along Loudville Road. And therefore, we think that even more so, this would be meeting the board's desires to see the units to be even more consistent and more in harmony than the other units, which we still fully believe are fully compatible with the neighborhood.
Jessica, just not to interrupt, sorry, but what is the actual reduction? Can you give everybody the size of the original ones and then what they are now?
So we go back to, this is the document that was provided, the comparison document, and this is the summary. The proposed duplex for the gross area was 4,500. And again, my back of the envelope, based on an 86 by 56 footprint, it's not quite half, it's a little less than half. Hold on. It's about 3,900 square feet difference.
So
Okay, thanks.
just a couple quick comments. Rob Levesque from our Levesque Associates, also representing Cynthia Stepler. The big reason for the change was not only to reduce the scale of the units at the street that could potentially be visible, but it also, if we can go back to the site plan for a second, it allowed us to hold our footprint location on the far side. So if Jessica would move the cursor. So in units 2 and 3, the reduction in size allowed us to have a little bit more separation from Mrs. Stepler's house, which will become unit 1, between unit 1 and unit 2. If you remember in the field, I believe the planning board may have had a comment, or just in general, we were talking about the proximity, and we saw the layout and the stakeout in the field. The proximity of that unit 1 to unit 2 was certainly something that, it was pretty tight. So this allows us to reduce that. Obviously, the reduction in the number of garage bays, brings the unit a lot tighter. So the north side of unit number 3 has essentially stayed in the same location, and we just truncated the unit or swapped out the unit. So you'll see unit 2 is much farther from Mrs. Stepler's house. In addition, over near 4 and 5, we had some discussion about maintaining as much of the vegetative buffer as possible. We actually went out and survey located some of the trees that we had talked about. We were accommodating it in our last layout. We were able to accommodate that separation in our last layout, but this made sense to us. We know that as these get developed, in general, some of these smaller units are desirable. Not everybody wants a 2-car garage. A lot of times in a condo community, folks will want a 1-car garage, maybe it's a single person, that type of thing. So these smaller units are certainly marketable, would be, easy to do, and this seemed like the logical location to do that. I feel like it's kind of being a little bit more flexible, and hopefully providing a little bit more continuity with the transition from the existing neighborhood to this development.
And Rob, did that alter any of the tree removal or limit of work on the units 4 or 5, or is that still the same?
Actually, if you go to the grading plan, Jess,
Can I just jump in? I just want to, Jesse, I need your help. Could we just identify that we're not using the chat function for the meeting?
Oh, yeah. Please don't comment into the chat, folks. There'll be a chance for public comment once we're done with planning board questions and the applicant's presentation. Everyone got a chance to speak, but we're not going to be responding to stuff in the chat. So please avoid that. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Chairman. So back to your question. If you look at the silt fence line just to the south of Unit 4, you'll see that there's a tree right there on the line. There's that tree. As you can see, we were kind of protecting those trees already. We can actually shift that up, that line up. It doesn't. The silt fence line doesn't need to be as far south from Unit 4 as it is. We can certainly shift that up and even further protect. So the goal would be to protect those trees that we had talked about. But
Okay.
yeah, we have ample room. We have a lot more wiggle room on that south side now. That unit's, I'm going to guess, is probably close to 60 feet away from that property line.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
All right, Jessica, is there more?
That's it. Those are the only two items.
Okay, we did also get a copy of the memorandum of understanding, right? With the neighbor.
Yes.
Okay, any questions from planning board members?
There
Sorry,
was one
Jeff.
other, yep, sorry. There was one other letter that came in today, and Jesse, I don't know if you saw that. I tried to forward it to you at the beginning here, and I can identify who it was from. Do you have access to that, or just at least identify it?
Yeah, I do. I have one already that came in last week, but I do see the new one that just came in, or you just forwarded to me. So I'll read both of those when we get to the public comment portion.
Perfect.
Planning board members, questions, comments, thoughts? Harry?
Yeah, I'd like to know what the average, what does the average house on Loudville Road go for money-wise? Anybody on idea? All these houses that we're comparing our houses to on Loudville Road, what's the average home cost? If you were to purchase a home on Loudville Road, what would it go for? Any idea?
Who are you asking, Harry?
Whoever wants to answer the question, I don't know.
I have no idea.
All I'm trying to make is, I mean, these are $400,000 units. The average house on Loudville Road certainly doesn't go for $400,000, I wouldn't think. So we're basically building like an elitist complex compared to the rest of the houses in this neighborhood. That's how I look at it. How about a comment on that? We'll see what happens.
I don't know if you had an opportunity to see the Gazette today, but there was an article about the shortage of housing supply, a lot of it due to COVID related and the pandemic and people leaving the cities and moving out to Western Mass. And there's a real housing shortage right now. A lot of it as a result of COVID, and prices are jumping all over the place and things are not staying on the market for very long. So just as a point of reference in terms of the market conditions, that's where we're looking at right now.
Can I comment on that?
Please, Harry.
As far as I know, I read that same article, and it was people from New York and New Jersey are buying those houses, not people in this area. It's not local yokels that are buying these places. It's people that are outside our area.
Well, you always know my standard line, Harry. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Once you live in Easthampton, you're an Easthampton resident.
I could, through the chair, I'd be happy to answer Harry's question.
Please.
So generally speaking, I've seen these units and very similar units built over the last decade. I've seen them range anywhere from similar units, anywhere from, and this is probably going back about 10 years, anywhere from about 275 all the way up to north of 4. I do see Easthampton as a very strong market for these. I don't think there's a lot of other products similar to this. So I do see realistically that the smaller units would probably go in the high 3s. and the lower units, the bigger units could go into the fours. Just to give you some perspective on single-family homes, new single-family homes. Typically, to build a new single-family home, when you're buying a lot for $100,000 or so, it's almost impossible to build a home for $400,000 these days. So any single-family homes that we've seen built in the last decade or so are typically anywhere from $375,000 to 4 and change. And then if you're doing the typical upgrades, you're probably $450,000 all day long. I can tell you that currently we've seen a big bump in the cost of building materials, where the framing packages and the roofing materials and generally the materials in general have jumped by double for at least that portion of the construction. So that hopefully is going to level itself off after COVID kind of calms down a little bit. But between the building materials and between that and the market, as Jessica had mentioned, and the influx of people moving out of more populated municipalities and metropolitan areas, I think realistically these are going to be desired units, and certainly not elitist. It will be based on the market for folks that are developing. I don't think they'll be out of the range for a lot of folks in Easthampton, but they certainly won't be lower end units. They would be what I would call market, mid to higher end units for this area.
Thank you, Rob.
Yep.
Any other planning board members, comments or questions at this point? Got to scroll through everybody to make sure. All right, so I am going to open it up to the public, but I'm going to start. We got 2 emails that I'm going to just read into the record here. The first one here is an email from Barbara Eaton to Jeff Bagg. Hello, Mr. Bagg. Subject is Loudville Road traffic. Hello, Mr. Bagg. I, Barbara Eaton, live at 33 Torrey Street and drive on Loudville Road frequently between the Torrey Street crossing and West Street. I am concerned that the proposed condo development for 69 to 73 Loudville Road will create a significant traffic problem. It appears that 18 units, possibly 36 or more cars, will have only one ingress-egress onto Loudville Road. Pre-pandemic traffic on that stretch of Loudville Road has been of fairly high volume. The road has curves which limit visibility of oncoming traffic, and traffic is often traveling above the speed limit. The addition of so many additional vehicles either wanting to enter Loudville Road during the morning rush or wanting to turn, possibly left, into the development during the afternoon-evening rush could cause major problems. Then there's the additional problem of school buses stopping to load and discharge students. I would like to know whether or not this potential problem has been addressed, and if so, what conclusions are being considered. Thank you for your consideration, Barbara Eaton. We've talked a little bit, Rob and Jessica, about traffic in the past. Do you want to address any of that right now? The comments made by Ms. Eaton in her email?
Sorry about that. Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rob.
Oh, go ahead.
My understanding is with the traffic report and the traffic studies that were done, it showed that the traffic was very minimal and that it was only, 9 cars in the morning, 13 at night. So I believe that the impact to the traffic of this new development is going to be fairly minimal compared to the traffic that's already on Loudville Road. You should not see a large uptick with this development.
Okay, thank you. And next one here I have is an email from this afternoon from Dina Theodore to Jeff Bagg, subject Loudville multi-unit development. Hello, I am writing as a follow-up to the last meeting. It seems as though the board has made their decision. What is not clear to many of us residents is just how much of a voice we have in these decisions, given how the process has unfolded from our perspective. Many of us brought up concerns, most particularly as it relates to the addition of more cars and traffic on the road that is not police monitored. Average speed is 45 miles per hour. One resident shared how a car drove into a tree on her property. Another resident recently submitted a similar email. Many residents walk on Loudville. Given the size of this development, there will be considerably more cars, at least 36 at a minimum, on this road. The data provided on traffic is outdated. Also, the road itself will probably be dug up and add to the already disrepair of it in some sections. If this development is approved, can you not request that the developer install a couple of flashing speed monitoring, monitor cars' speeds and flashes slow down when above the limit signs to help ease speeds as part of your approval? Or install traffic calming islands near their development entrance to help reduce speeds? Can the developer commit to properly repaving a section of the road? Does the board not address such concerns? And if none can happen, then can the board direct residents to someone who would address our safety concerns? The police department? Loudville is rarely police monitored. Speed is becoming a larger safety issue. It's no longer a country road. While we understand the board may have already made its decision, we do hope local neighbors' concerns who know Loudville the best are also properly considered and addressed. It can't be just about a financial opportunity for the owner. Safety in the area around this development should be considered. Thank you, Dina. So just from the planning board's perspective, in response to that, there has been no decision that's made yet. We've had multiple hearings and we've raised a lot of these issues, and we're still in the decision-making process. As for the public road, that's not necessarily something we can require the developer to make changes to. And I think if there is an issue with speeding and dangerous driving, that probably the police department is the right resource for that. I would start there. Any other members of the public? I see one hand at least, Paula and Wally. If you can just make sure when people are talking, if you can state your full name and address just for the record.
Yes, this is Wally Rapolis, and next to me.
Paula Rapolis.
Yeah, my sister Paula Rapolis. And I'd like first to refer to the zoning ordinance paragraph 8.331A. The development shall be integrated into the existing terrain and surrounding landscape, and in bold, shall be designed to protect abutting properties and community amenities. Building sites shall be, to the extent feasible, 1, minimize use of wetlands, steep slopes, floodplains, hilltops. 2, minimize obstruction of scenic views from publicly accessible locations. 3, and this is the item we're raising concern over, preserve unique natural and historical features. And what I have here, what we have to show to you, is the North Manhattan River North Branch, and the river, and where it is laid out in this book. In this book, and also, oh boy. Well, I'm sorry. Well, you're talking about 400 years worth of history. And you'll find on the riverbed buttons, because buttons were manufactured in that region at the time for Civil War monuments, or Civil War uniforms, I'm sorry. And you can also see the footings on Loudville Road, where they are extending up out of the ground. And there. What you see here is the North Branch of the Manhattan River. What you see right here. And besides that, this is in Easthampton, where you see the flow of the river. And besides that, there's a brick foundation. If you can probably barely see.
And it was the site of many businesses.
Now, this book was written 25 years ago. These are the footings right here that you can see in the Loudville region and further down. And when you go down Loudville Road, you can see them by sight. But this was a few years ago. But these are footings to the walkways to the mills in Loudville. And that, of course, cannot be forgotten about. And a friend of our mom's took these pictures and showed them to the Historical Society.
Wally, can I ask you a couple questions about that?
Certainly.
This is the first I've heard of it. This is interesting. Are the buttons and the footings that you're talking about on this parcel, or are they just on this branch of the Manhan?
They're on this branch of the Manhan that runs through.
And so do people go out and like search for the buttons or something? I mean, is that?
Yes, they do. They're
in the river.
They're in the river, yeah. There's my sister. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, the three of us, Paul and I and our mom, we went down to Waterbury, Connecticut, where the
Mattituck Museum.
The Mattituck Museum is located, where it's a button museum, and those buttons can be traced right to what we're seeing now.
Revolutionary War Days.
Yeah, Revolutionary War Days. Mohair buttons were made around 1700 in Boston by Alfred Dennis. Rufus Hyde of Chesterfield in 1840 made bone buttons. And Hill Brothers and Company from Williamsburg made button molds. Hitchcocks of Waterbury, Connecticut made cloth-covered buttons from 1830 to 1840, and also gilt buttons. And Dickinson Hard Rubber Company from Springfield, Massachusetts made buttons from 1870 to 1880. And it continues.
So, well, sorry to interrupt, Wally. So what, how would this proposal interfere with that, or somehow endanger the river, the buttons, the footings, any of those features?
The reason, first of all, is that the book is cataloged at Forbes Library, and her mom, she had a photographer, Gwendolyn Dodds and Betty Schaefer, who did the photography on this, but also a lot. It was work done by myself. I did the typesetting on the book and collated that with all of the documented history that's in the book. There's references made to where there was an interface with the three-county fair and the Manhan River North Branch that comes to your question, Mr. Belcher Timmy. And there was a mill. And where you can see this, again, the North Branch of the Manhan River, if you go down Loudville Road and you make a left at Torrey Street and you keep going down, eventually you will come to a bridge, and it's down by a winery over there, and that river is that runs under the bridge is the north branch of the Manhan.
I have a
Okay. Yeah.
Jesse, and this is interesting. I had a couple email conversations with Wally, and it really didn't occur to me until you held up the image of the book. But I just think it's important that this project is on the right side of Loudville Road and is adjacent to Hampton Brook. So the way you just, and it didn't occur to me until you were showing the image that the historical nature of the north branch of the Manhan is not close to this property at all. This property it's on the right side of Loudville Road. So I didn't know, Wally, when we spoke, it wasn't, and I'm glad you're here. It wasn't clear that where you were concerned about. So I think we should clarify where this property is, and maybe Rob, maybe Mr. Levesque can give an overview. I'm just concerned that per the book and the north branch of the Manhan, that we're not talking about we're not in the same location, I'm afraid. I need someone else to clarify that. But as you held up the book, it really started I looked it up, and I don't think we're in the same vicinity.
Right. It's the Hampton Brook that runs through this parcel, correct?
That's correct. Mr. Chairman, I think I can help.
Thank you.
Paul out. Yeah, I believe the area that you're talking about is at least half mile to 3/4 of a mile away. This particular property that we're dealing with is, as mentioned, is on the east side of the street, and we just so you know, even if it was in this particular area, we do have very restrictive regulations as it relates to these rivers and streams.
Mm-hmm.
There's a 200-foot riverfront area that will be untouched along the Hampton Brook. And there's a significant amount of open space that will be left, but specifically on either side of Hampton Brook, there's a restricted area. It's called Riverfront Area under the Wetlands Protection Act, and we can do little or no work in that area. And actually, we've already received our approval, which is called an order of conditions from the Conservation Commission, that specifically states that we will not be going into those areas. So as far as anything that may have been, in this area, if for some reason there was activity in this area, we will be staying well away from the river. It's called, under the Wetlands Protection Act. We'll be staying well away from that and up on the flat portion, generally the flat portion of the property, not down the slope towards the river. That's a pretty significant restricted area. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah. Yeah, I see where lots lot 20, the lot 20, which is next to 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Now I'm thinking about where Glendale Road is. It's
to the north.
Glendale Road over in, well, that's Southampton, so that wouldn't apply.
Well, what really made it a little bit clearer is when you mentioned Torrey Street. So you go up Loudville, and then you turn left onto Torrey, and then the bridge where you cross the Manhan. That's when it became clear to me that we might not be talking about the same area.
You can actually see a label on the map that Jessica's showing over to the left. Sort of, it looks like, I think that just past Torrey Street, right above the dotted line where you were back to the right. It says North Branch Manhan River. So you can see, Wally and Paula, this is the North Branch of the Manhan on this side of Loudville. And the project that we're looking at is on the other side of Loudville. It's that Hampton Brook area. So I think the first thing is, I don't think that that's the same feature, but also I think Mr. Levesque's point is a good one. There's no real construction proposed or disturbance proposed down by the Hampton Brook. So to the extent that there might be similar features there, that should all remain as protected as it is right now, if not more so when there's, conservation restrictions on it.
There are conservation restrictions on it, you're saying, Mr. Belcher Timmy.
So as part of this proposal, the applicant is protecting the non-developed land, which includes the Hannah Brook. So that will restrict sort of disturbances and any sort of interference or any kind of, harm to either the wetlands or the brook back there.
I see. I have a question that I want to ask, and
I'm going,
go ahead, Paula. I'm sorry.
I figured that I don't like to see trash thrown down the hill into the river, and I mean, even people's trash. Some people will be neat about it and others will be messy. And, but anyway, I don't approve of the, what is it?
Development.
The development of Loudville going in.
Okay, thank you both very much.
One other question that I have
Sure.
is is there going to be a lot of paving over these for these 18 units? Because what crosses my mind is that there may be a significant amount of runoff coming from the paving and going, I don't know to what extent the stormwater drainage permit, if the reason why that permit was being applied for was with the potential of rain on the asphalt. That's a question I have.
Yeah, so we have talked about that. Rob, maybe you can give us a quick overview on the stormwater plan and how that impacts the road construction.
Yep, absolutely. Wally, what we're required to do anytime we introduce new impervious surfaces, for example, roofs, sidewalks, walkways, driveways, and the roads, required to design those roads to a certain width and standard and grade. When we do that, we obviously introduce impervious surfaces. We're required to match the pre-existing condition to the post condition. So as we're introducing those impervious surfaces, we have increased runoff. And when we increase that runoff, we have to attenuate that runoff, those stormwater flows. And we have to also treat the water. So for example, we have to remove total suspended solids, so floatables in the stormwater. And we also have to we'll call it meter that stormwater out, and that cannot increase over the existing conditions. So we kind of slow it down, almost if you think of it like an hourglass. We're kind of slowing that water down and metering it out slowly so that during these big storm events, we can hold it on site long enough to slowly let it go. Eventually goes to the same locations, but will be metered out at the same rate so that there's no downstream flooding and so that we're handling these big events. So that's kind of how it's done.
Okay. Now you mentioned, Bob, can I refer to you as Bob? Well, Mr. Levesque, the question I have also is the capacity of the lines that are going into the project. Wondering if they're able to withhold that much water that is going into the lines.
So as part of our analysis, I think you're talking about the stormwater drainage.
Right.
Analysis, we do a hydraulic analysis of the piping system, the proposed conveyance system for the drainage. So we not only do an analysis of the water running across the land pre-development and post-development, but we also do a hydraulic analysis to make sure that the pipes that are conveying the water are also sized properly to handle the same storm event. So we've done that. Yeah, so we double check that.
Wally and Paula, thank you very much. I'm going to move on and let some other people talk for a minute, okay?
Very good. Thank you.
Yep. Is there any other members of the public with comments or questions? Again, you can raise your virtual hand or turn on your video and raise your actual hand, or *9.
You can also *6. If you're just on a cell phone, you can *6 to unmute.
Oh, did not know that one yet. All right. And I don't think I see anybody. Any planning board members with any questions or comments? Mr. Zarvis.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to check on where we are with the process. I saw a draft document come out, I believe, from Jeff. Thank you for that. I wanted to see if there was anything that we need to fill into that, go through potential conditions, see if there's any issues the planning board still has with this, and if there's anything we need to do to iron it out. I'm personally, we've been through many meetings on this, a lot of things from traffic to stormwater we've covered, and I'm personally prepared to make a motion to approve.
Any other comments or questions from planning board members? Yeah, Harry?
Yeah, what I want to know is, does this thing comply with 8.332 or not?
As far as, you mean as far as the character of the neighborhood?
I don't want an interpretation. I want to know, does it or does it not comply with 8.332?
Well, the whole question is an interpretation, Harry. That's why you get paid the big bucks to be on the planning board, is that you get to decide whether, in your opinion, it meets with the prevailing character of the neighborhood. I mean, it's a somewhat subjective standard, right? Which is what makes this tough. It's not, is the, roof more than 20 feet tall? It's the character of the neighborhood. So I think all of us are going to have to make our own determination on that. And it's going to be, that's what the decision is sort of hinging on at this point. Mr. Zarvis, you want to add something?
Only that, just to be clear, because I think that there are some people here that might have taken that literally, and I hate saying this because it was funny, but there are no bucks being paid.
We are actually unpaid. That is a good point, Jim. That was a bad joke. I apologize. None of us get anything. Mr. Levesque?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just like to take the opportunity to discuss the character and the nature of the development as it folds into the neighborhood. We have, I feel like, first of all, this is certainly a residential, although it be multifamily, it's a residential approach to the development of this property. We have side gabled roofs, we have dormers, we have a lot of detail on our units. They're clapboard siding. They're all the same materials. They're all the same general roof pitches as the surrounding, at least Cape Cod style. I wouldn't say we're the same roof pitch as some of the ranches, but the windows are similar in size and in nature. We've gone, a little bit above and beyond to try to switch some of the units, but I think approximately 75% reduction on those on the size of those two duplexes on the way in to really further tie into the neighborhood, so that they didn't feel a little bit bigger than the surrounding houses that are visible. We do tie into the topography, and there's not a lot of cuts and fills that are required to do these. We feel strongly that we've met this requirement. It is obviously a subjective thing, but these are residential in nature. They are not taller, generally speaking, and if anything, maybe slightly shorter than some of the surrounding houses with the additions. There are often in this neighborhood, not always, but often two-car garages, even on the ranches. It seems like everybody has two-car garages. So we feel that we tie pretty well into a residential neighborhood here, and also by the fact that this is tucked away, and only a few units will be even visible from the street, and all the lighting and all of the types of residential livability, we'll call it, to this neighborhood is consistent with a residential feel. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Rob. Brenda?
Hi, everyone. First, I want to thank the applicant for the extra materials you provided. That was really helpful. I just want to acknowledge your effort and the cost it took to do that. So many thanks. So I'm just going to share where I'm at now. I think, you know, I personally really appreciate the reduced size of the 2 duplexes closer to the road. I want to acknowledge that. You've reduced 2 of the 8 duplexes. That's 25%. So I recognize that, and I really like that. It also could theoretically reduce the number of cars going in and out. They're 1-car garages, so that could reduce the 36 to 32. I think that's relevant. I appreciate Jessica's numbers. You know, the 8,400 gross feet of the larger duplexes really moves those duplexes down on the list you provided, kind of borderline. However, having said that, the other thing I like about this project is that you're using less than 5% of the acreage, and the rest of it, if I understand conservation restrictions, it's a legal restriction in the deed going forward, even to somebody else who buys it. Is that correct? Yeah. So there's a lot more about this I'm liking, and I just want to, you know, acknowledge the efforts the applicant has made to address some of the concerns. I wish we could do better for the neighbors who are concerned about traffic. I drive that route all the time to West Hampton, and I don't know. I just wish there was something we can do. I do like the fact that it's reduced, you know, the potential car traffic by 4. But I don't know if the town could put up slow signs, or, you know, I don't know, because people do walk it and people actually bike it. And so that's kind of where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda. Other thoughts from planning board members? Or any other questions or comments from the public at this point? Oh, sorry, Jeff.
I just wanted to share that there is the draft of the decision document where it was identified. So this new information, the November 6th memo, you know, was new and the board hadn't discussed that. So I tried to flag that as sort of one of the final pieces of information to review. And I want to thank Member Sallier, because she raised a question in my mind about the documents, which created a big red flag, which was just it was unclear what information was being provided. The images, and I didn't catch it initially, but the images show units with 1-car garages. And now I would like to have the applicant go through one more time to summarize what the numbers are supposed to show, because I agree that now there's a number of 8,400 square feet for gross square feet for the duplexes, but that number doesn't actually show up in that document. So what caused me concern was just a little bit of unclearness about what numbers were being shown on that November 6th document, and the, you know, the dimensions of the building are for buildings with 1-car garages. So that appeared to me to be a big question mark. So I too appreciate the clarification, but it's a little bit unclear to me in terms of taking notes. Where are we at with gross square footage in that chart provided? Because I think once we get through that, I think we would potentially walk through parts of the decision. There was 2 findings that really take some additional interpretation from the board.
Okay, if I could speak to that from the chair.
Please.
So we've been through a lot of these projects over the last decade and more. And what we found is typically what we would like to be able to do is for the first 4 units that we kind of showed, those new units that we just talked about, the units that are reduced, those would be obviously set in stone, as they wouldn't be any bigger than those, because those are key to making sure that you know, we tie into the neighborhood and actually okay. So the unit that you're seeing here would be those units, and Jessica, I don't know which numbers are they, 2, 3, and 4, 5, is that right?
3 and 4, 5, correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. So 2, 3, and 4, 5 would be these units that you see here. The rest of the units we show with a 2-car garage scenario. Oftentimes, they don't all end up being 2-car garages. So that footprint that we're showing would be the maximum. And actually, we have a single unit too, I believe. We still have that one. So, the single unit would be essentially a half of one of these. I do have a sketch, or actually I do have a plan of that. But essentially, the maximum that the rest of the units would be the 2-car garages on either side, or both sides of the remaining units. But there is a distinct possibility, and we would like the flexibility that if they decided, or if somebody wanted to buy a unit with a single garage, we can do 2 units side by side with 2-car garages each, or we could do a unit with a 2-car garage on one side with a 1-car on the other, or we could do both as 1-car garages, depending on what the market bears and what people are really looking to have built. Because we expect that we would have a model unit. That model unit would be walked through, and depending on who the buyer would be, if it's a single person, oftentimes they don't want a bigger unit. And in the end, they're both pretty marketable and profitable from a development standpoint. So,
Rob, that's accepting the smaller units, right? You don't want the flexibility for the 2 that you've downsized already.
So there's 4 units that we downsized. We're not looking for any flexibility there. We understand that that's tying into the neighborhood, and we made that reduction as try to help with a couple of those items I've mentioned. But we would like to do the larger units in the back if they choose to develop them. Worst case or best case scenario, I guess, for the overall impact would be they might be a little bit smaller. They might not be that big, but they won't be any bigger.
So just to clarify, Rob, your concept, it's not like a blank check. Your idea is that you want to be able to make some of those big 2-car garage units that are further back, the potential to make them into these smaller 1-car units.
Yes, exactly. So we would not exceed the footprint that we've proposed, but we would, if possible, in the decision, would like the opportunity, if for some reason someone doesn't need a big unit, we could, when we go to build a duplex, one of the sides could be bigger, one of the bigger units that you see there, or they could be smaller, like the ones that we showed for units 2, 3, 4, and 5. And if the planning board is more comfortable, we would be happy to come back if there's a if there would be a change on that. We could always come back if we wanted to reduce those. But in general, I think it would be less impact, no more than we're showing.
Jeff, did that answer your question?
I understand the request for the flexibility, but no, what I'm concerned about is the portrayal of this data in the chart. So this is a 1-car garage for each duplex, right? And it's showing approximate gross of 4,500 square feet, and that was used in this table as a way to represent, compatibility with the character and the scale of the neighborhood. And what I was concerned with is this number for the remaining units, is this number 8,400 for the remainder of the units? Because that's what caused me the greatest concern in using this chart and moving forward as we put up the draft decision, and for the board's consideration of using the November 6th data as any kind of part of the decision. It's just really confusing to me because this letter came with 4,500 square feet gross listed as if it were comparing all of the units. And now the proposal is to shrink 2 units, which I understand, but so the 2 units would shrink down to 3,900. I need a summary of the numbers because they're not.
I think I can clarify this easily.
Thank you.
So this represents the smaller units that we're bringing towards the road. So in an effort to tie the property into the surrounding neighborhood, we've elected to reduce those first 4 units, as we had mentioned. So this represents those. If you look on the right-hand side, if we could just scroll up a little bit. So it says, the gross floor area proposed duplex falls into range from blah, 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 blah. 1 unit of housing, 2 units provided, the duplex living area, 2 units. Somewhere in here it says that it's the one. I'm sorry. You go down, it's actually on the right of the versus architectural detail. So gross floor area for these 2 units, living area, the height, Cape Cod style, and then window dormer, and then this is, you'll see that this is 2 one-car garages. So 2 meaning the total building, 2 one-car garages.
So Rob, can you clarify for us what the square footage size is for the full units, the 2-car garage ones? That's the part I'm getting a little confused with.
Yeah, so I think the total square footage that's being called out is a box dimension. It's not actually as big as what's being called out. But let me just see here. So a 2-car garage unit is it's got jogs to it, but it's 41.4 by. There's exclusions on the corners. If you guys look at the building footprints, there's actually exclusions. So.
Yeah, it's like a building envelope, right? The whole thing fits inside, but there's some.
Yeah. So let's call the building envelope 41.4 by 54. 31.4. That's for one. I'm sorry. Just so we're clear, that's for one side. So 40. One second.
But one of those lengths would stay the same, not get doubled.
Does the whole area get doubled though, Jessica?
So I'm just going to do 41.5 times 54. Okay, it's 2241. That's the and it's not quite that big. Times 2. So the gross floor. I'm sorry. That's the first floor. So just so we're clear, that gross floor area, Jessica, that includes both stories.
Gross floor area includes garages and anything that's not livable, attic space, any of that stuff.
Right. So the actual footprint. I'm calculating the footprint, guys.
Right. So you're calculating by gross area if you're just doing the footprint. Livable area would exclude the garages. It would exclude attic space. It would exclude anything that isn't quote unquote livable.
But I think there's a subtlety in Jessica's table here, in that the gross area includes both stories. So the footprint.
Correct.
Now I'm looking at the footprint, and the footprint is 40 for each unit. Is for the 2-car garages is 41.5, we'll call it, and by 54. So the total footprint for this building, without the exclusions on the corners, is about 4,482 square feet. So I'm probably confusing the heck out of you, but this is.
So I think I got so the building envelope of the 2 garage units is about 4,400 square feet combined.
That's for a full duplex, correct?
Yeah.
Minus those exclusions. So say maybe it's 4,000 square feet or so.
Yeah. And so then what, if we're just doing apples to apples, what would be the footprint of the envelope for those smaller units now?
So the smaller unit, pull it up on my screen so I can see the detail a little bit better.
Let Jessica do that. I can't see that on my screen.
So one direction is 28 feet plus 18 feet plus 18 feet. So this is 64. This isn't making sense. 64 by 37 as like a square footprint, again, without the exclusions and all of that. When I had computed this, I had actually broken out into each square and really did kind of a very detailed area analysis, including all those exclusions for both the basement plan, and I looked at the second floor plan, which has a different footprint.
Okay. Brenda?
This is where I really start to get frustrated. You guys do this day in and day out. And I just think it's really crazy that you can't provide these numbers to us. Jessica, you said not 20 minutes ago, it was 8,400 gross feet for the big buildings. Did I misunderstand that?
Yes, I also said back of the envelope without looking at any plans. Rob has the benefit of having plans in front of him. I don't have the plans. So I was taking an 86 by 56 square foot, multiplying that, and got 4,816. And then with an understanding that it wasn't, the second floor wasn't going to fully fill that footprint because it's going up. I took out 25%, multiplied the 4,816 times 75% to give it a 75% of the square footage, and got a full size of 8,428. That's my back of the envelope using the 86 feet by 56 feet footprint.
So what is the gross square feet for the 86 by 56 proposed building? Because I'm glad to see that Rob has plans. I don't understand why we have not been provided with them. We asked for the plans at the first meeting. It would be just, can you forward them to us? You have them. Email them to Jeff right now. That would be awesome.
So the units that we're using, we don't have fully designed architecturals for this specific project. We have a very similar unit that we are going to use the footprint of. So,
well, you can't have it both ways. Jessica just tried to use the 86 by 56, but then said she couldn't use that because you had plans.
Yeah, I understand. Can you give me a second to answer your question? Because I do have your answer.
Thank you.
Yeah, so just so we're clear, the unit that has the one-car garage, okay? So that is 53 by 64. So it's 32 on either side. So that's 64. That's across the front, okay? So 64 across the front by 53 deep. Okay? So 64 by 53, I'll check the calc one more time. It's 3,392 square feet. Now that, just so we're clear, does not include some of the jogs back. That's the building envelope for the smaller unit. That's the footprint, okay? Not the gross floor area. It's the footprint of the unit.
Rob, is that one unit or one structure?
That's one structure, duplex.
Okay.
It's a duplex. That's the total for the duplex with the one-car garages. Okay. And then I think we just had already calculated the other one. But if you want to go back and run through that one.
Yeah, 86 times 56 is 4,800 square feet. So, and that's the footprint. So the problem with the chart provided is you're listing it as gross. You're listing it as gross at 4,600 square feet. So it's just really kind of, and I just want to say, you know, mentioning the one-car garages, I mean, this is brand new information that you're actually incorporating the one-car garage. So it's not as if we had long discussions about one-car garage stuff. So it's just really hard to make sense of the data coming out of that November 6th letter. It's just not adding up.
So the gross floor area is taking in the second floor living space, and she calculated second, because that's the way the assessor's office does it. She's basically trying to explain that gross floor area of the unit. So it includes the first story and also the second story. That's why you're saying it doesn't add up. But I'm comparing the two footprints right now. So the two footprints, so just to give everybody, because the question was asked, what were the difference between the two footprints? I believe the chair had asked that. So we have the comparison between the two footprints. And it's the easiest way to, you know, kind of compare the two.
But Rob, why don't we have actual design drawings or at least like measurements for those structures yet?
We do, and we actually have them, but we don't have architecturals developed for this project. As mentioned earlier on in the process, we wanted to make sure we were approved before we go through the expense of having the drawings redesigned and stamped and structural engineering and everything else.
For me, there's a bit of a catch-22 happening that's probably driving us all mad. How can we determine 8.332, we seem to be having some circular conversations now. We're trying to, I'll speak for myself, I'm trying to get, clarity as to what's being built. And so you're throwing some numbers at us, and then when we ask questions about them, we get answers that say, well, we don't actually have the drawings, so, we can't actually give you figures. So I don't know how productive this is.
I do think one of the hard parts, Rob, is this is clearly one of the biggest issues in the whole application, right? Is sort of the character of the neighborhood, and it has been for a while. So it is a little hard if we don't have a real clear picture of what those structures are.
Well, you do. So we've provided them. We have them. We've showed you pictures of the units, and we've also shown drawings of the units. What I'm saying is we don't have stamped architectural drawings, but we have the unit. We know exactly what the footprint is. We know what the heights are. We know what the detailing is. It's what we've showed you. And I have the units. I have the unit plans for each of these that show the dimensions. So the dimensions for the single are what I had mentioned on the previously. We just did the calculation. So we have them. They're just literal. We're not going to go through the expense of stamped architecturals on this particular project until we know we have approval. But what you've seen is what we plan on building for the single units, and the double units. I've also showed you images and could if need be, can show you the dimensions of those units. I might even be able to show you now.
I apologize if I missed something. I would love to see the elevation for the 86 by 56 duplex with the 2-car garages. Can you just bring that up?
Yep. Am I sharing? Jessica's sharing, I think.
I just turned off mine.
Okay.
I think, Jeff, I don't know if Rob's been given co-host ability.
Got it. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't have it yet.
You just got it now. Oh, okay. You figured it out.
I don't know what I'm sharing. We're sharing. Are you seeing the rendering?
We can see an architectural rendering of the two insulated garage doors, and it looks like from the front.
Yep. Okay, so the one on the left is a 2-car unit. So this is how the 2-car unit looks. The single car. So if we were to develop a 2-car with a single, so there's the elevations. The dimensions are here. So 41.4 by, and I'll have to add it up, but call it 34.5 roughly. So 45, and you'll see, as you'd mentioned, I got some markups on these, but there's jogs here. That's what I was talking about. So the units are actually smaller than the footprint. I'm just kind of going by the overall footprint from the farthest wall to the next farthest wall.
I think one thing that I would like to just ask Mr. Chair is, I think we've moved past looking at each individual unit of the duplex, and I think we're talking about the overall building, right? Because when you go to gross and things like that, I think we need to pick footprint or gross and stick with it. And I think we're talking about the whole building. We don't want to parse out the size of each individual unit anymore. I think we already did that during a meeting. And I think there was some general consensus that we need to look at the building as a whole to at least be talking about the building size, not the individual unit.
Yeah.
Right. I think we can kind of move from there.
Yeah, this is great. Again, it's only 73 feet wide. So if you can just bring up the drawing that has the 86-foot width with two-car garages, that would be awesome. Or email it to Jeff.
I don't know what 86.
Your
That
footprint.
would be.
I think that was what was given as the larger footprint.
The footprint on your site plan is 86 by 56, and it's labeled typical building footprint, I think. Unless that's not what you're looking to build, and we can just put that in conditions that it's limited to 73 feet by whatever this is.
Well, this is, so yeah, so that it would be, the total unit would be 82.8, I guess. By,
You don't have a drawing that shows the 2-car?
this is the 2-car on this side.
Right, but one that shows both units with the 2-car, the full. I mean, you don't have one of those.
So I have the 2-car on one side and the single on the other, but
none that are the double 2 cars.
yeah, I don't have an elevation that shows that. But I do. This is the. This would be mirrored, obviously. I do have a single though. You want to see that?
No, that's not helpful. I guess if another way to ask the question is, can you please show us an elevation for the maximum size you are looking to build? Is that what we're seeing right here?
This unit on the left would be mirrored.
No, the building.
But Rob, for the full structure, so like the biggest structure you guys envision, so, say one of those ones in the back that you're talking about doing two-car garages side by side, do you have a drawing that's got the elevations and measurements for that largest envelope conceivable?
I have the elevation of what we would mirror.
Okay.
I might have it somewhere, but I'd have to find it, but I don't have it readily available.
Okay. Chris, did you have a question?
I do. So my question is, are you coming to the board now and requesting that this is going to be the elevation that you are going to stick with? That what I'm really concerned about is we're going to, at some point, potentially approve a facade that is in concept only. You don't have, and I'm not asking for stamp drawings, but I would expect that you would come to the board with elevations, floor plans, just like any other person applying to us would do, that we could evaluate and look at the entire footprint of these structures, because you're not asking for individual freestanding structures. You're asking for duplexes. We need to see the full extent of the duplex. We want to look at the elevations. So to say that, you're coming to us with what this might look like, or, we haven't finished the design yet, I'm not comfortable with that. I need to see, and I'm not saying they need to be stamp ready for construction, but I need to know that you've put thought into what the design will look like, so you don't come back in 3 months and say, well, we decided to add a gable here, or take off the gable here, or we decided to add a giant picture window over there, whatever. I want to be able to know when I look at the design that it will match what the neighborhood is.
Yeah, and I think that last point, I just want to echo what Chris said, Rob. I mean, I think even more so on this project than other ones, it's hard for me. I think some of the biggest options we're talking about are a tougher call for me on sort of the character of the neighborhood, and the smaller ones are easier for me. So it's particularly hard on this issue where I feel like that's the tough call, and to sort of have to sort of do some math in our head and some mental gymnastics to try to envision what the largest one looks like is a little bit tricky right now, for me at least.
Understood. Yeah. So we can.
Is that something you could prepare for a future meeting, Rob?
Yeah, it is. I do understand where you're coming from, and I'd like to. I think we can certainly have the drawings developed a little bit more. I think we're far enough along with the planning board where we understand that a lot of the other items have been, I guess, somewhat resolved to some extent. Not to.
I think this is the at least in my mind, it's the largest hurdle that's remaining. And what I'm envisioning, I think that the way this could help you in the end, based on the flexibility you're asking, is, I'm imagining being able to look at drawings that show two car units, a 2-car and a 1-car, and 2 one-car units. And then we can sort of say, if we're comfortable with the biggest envelope, that the applicant has flexibility to also substitute a smaller one for a bigger one, which only, of course, reduces things. So that's kind of the 3 different structures I'd like to look at, is how each one of those configurations would look with actual measurements, so we can try to visualize that in the context of the neighborhood.
Yeah, with square footages.
Yeah,
And it can be the footprint of the largest structure, and footprint of the 1 and 2 car garage one, and then a footprint of the 2 1-car garages. So it doesn't have to be total square footage, including the second floor, but just so we can understand footprint versus footprint.
yeah.
I think that would be really helpful.
I agree that it's confusing with the gross floor area versus the footprint. So we can just confirm the dimensions for this for the 3 different types, and clarify that. And I apologize for the confusion.
No, that's all right. And I realize that some of
On
that
the site plan, and not enough on providing. We're asking for you to make a tough decision, and we're not providing you all the data.
Well, and some of it, Rob, is admittedly because you tried to sort of make some accommodations with the smaller units, which sort of complicates things, and then it makes it harder for us all to keep track of it. So I realize that, as Brenda said at the beginning, there's definitely been some effort here on those front units, and I think that's helpful, but it also probably leads to some of this confusion. So I think being able to look at sort of the 3 potential layouts, then we can look at those and get an idea, and hopefully if there's an approval, it would give you some of that flexibility, at least for A, B, or C, not necessarily something else, but that would help.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Zarvis?
So it looks like we're heading for a continuation. And I'm wondering what dates might be available.
So we do have the 24th in 2 weeks. I don't know how long you need, Rob, to get this together. I also don't, Jeff, you're not waving at me that that's a crazy idea, but does the 24th work for something like this for the board at least?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so Rob, is that enough time for you, or do you need more time to get those done?
No, that's enough time. Knowing, so we're looking for, just so we're clear, we're looking for kind of at least elevations and dimensions for the 3 different styles. That would be the smaller units, the
hybrid,
bigger units side by side, and then a hybrid.
Yeah, I think that's right. Is that any planning board members looking for something beyond that to sort of visualize this at this point? Okay, so I think that would be really helpful, Rob. If we could do that by the 24th, then I think, like you said, we've covered all the ground. I think we can in the other areas, but
is that our only meeting that night?
What's that?
So far,
6 p.m.
It's our we don't have anything on the agenda yet, so we can make it first.
Anything else you wanted to accomplish, or would you like a motion?
I would like something to be added to the in 2 weeks.
I'm sorry, what's that, Wally? You cut out there.
Like to have some time in the public opening in 2 weeks. And the reason why is specific signage for the historical area, the having to do that there is some property on the opposite side for historical purposes, because it is historic.
On this, are you talking about this parcel on this project, Wally, or are you talking about other properties?
I'm talking about the project on this property, and see if there is any opening so that the where the historic area is located, and I'd like verification of just to verify that there could be a portion of this where there's going to be some impact from a historical standpoint. Just for the satisfaction of knowing that this history that we have that goes back 4 centuries, that there is no something in a drawing or whatever that would show either that, in a drawing that could be presented in 2 weeks just to confirm that the historical area that I was giving reference to earlier could be brought up in 2 weeks, just to make sure what the relationship, I guess is the word, the relationship between the property that we were concerned about and the property that the development makes mention to.
Okay, Jeff, did you have something?
Sure, and I saw Brenda too, but what I want to offer, Wally, is that we have emailed. So let's email, and I would like to find a time to see the document that you have, and we can spend some time to just understand what you have and make sure we know where the location is. And then, yes, the hearing will be continued to to the 24th. So let me be a resource to you to help understand what you have and where this property is and what to do next with that information. And then you can certainly come to the next hearing and we can talk through it. But let me try to help. So if you wouldn't mind emailing me again, we could find a time next week to either talk on the phone or meet in person.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Brenda, did you have something else? Or
I was just going to add, I wondered if the historical commission, could be helpful with that.
Yeah, so maybe Jeff, you can help Wally and see if there's any other resources that might be helpful. All right, Mr. Zarvis, I think we're ready for a motion.
Thank you. I motion to continue the special permit and stormwater management permit under section 8.3 and 12.7 of the zoning ordinance and 12.76, of the city ordinance for the construction of 18 units multifamily residential development for Cynthia Stepler, project located at 6973 Loudville Road, to November 24th at 6 p.m.
I'll second.
All right, voting to continue to November 24th. Brenda.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Harry.
Aye.
Austin.
Aye.
James.
Aye.
And I am an aye. Thank you again to everyone who spoke and participated. And thanks again to the applicant for your flexibility. We'll see you in a couple.
Thanks, guys. We'll get our architectural information for you well ahead of time. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda, we have Apical Inc. seeking a special permit under sections 10.10 and 12.7 of the zoning ordinance for renovation and reuse of an existing structure and associated driveways, parking areas, and associated site work to operate as a recreational cannabis retail establishment located at 102 North Hampton Street in the Highway Business Zoning District. Is there someone here to speak on behalf of the applicant tonight?
I am here.
Hi, Ellen. How are you? Do you want to state your name and get us started?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Ellen Fryman with Shout Schwartz and Fenton, 1441 Main Street in Springfield, representing Apical Inc. And I'd like to introduce the team members who are with us this evening. Kat Kasem, and he's the CEO of Apical. Steve Chasen, he's with AC3 Consultants. Brian Heckworth, Security and Fire Integrations. Al Nardi is the architect, and he's with Uncommon Architects. Brian Horgan, Panda Solutions, and Andy Touchette with Leclerc Brothers Contractors, and then my associate Mark Esposito with Schott Schwartz and Fenton. So thank you, and we do have some plans that we can put up. I'll just give you a little background. So you did hear that this is a reuse of a building located at 102 Northampton Street. It was the former site of the Cernak Buick dealership. The parcel is a 1.26 acre lot. And the building, the existing building is 13,000 square feet. This operation will take up approximately 3,500 square feet, 2,400 square feet of which will be used for retail, and then another 1,200 square feet will be administrative space. And we'll go through and show you what the layout's going to look like. Before coming to the board tonight, there's been a lot of work done to get us here. The provisional license has been granted by the Cannabis Control Commission. There was a host community agreement signed with the city of Easthampton, and there's been a community outreach meeting. So this is the last stop on on the road here. So we've complied with the requirements of the zoning ordinance. There is one waiver that will request that I will get to. But otherwise, this is a good location, and we think this is a good project for the site.
Attorney Fryman? Hi, this is Curtis Weeman with the Planning Department. I have a quick request. I just want to interrupt you. Jeff, could you give Mark Esposito co-hosting capacity such that he can screen share? And Attorney Fryman, is he the only person from the team that you described above who will need screen sharing permissions?
Yes.
Great. My apologies for the interruption.
Oh, no, that's fine. I was wondering why we didn't see the plan.
That's the only reason. Okay.
Sorry.
Perfect.
That's okay. So what we have here is this is the existing building, and then over a bird's eye view of the property. Okay, and then and this is our sheet with all the information, city information that we have on the property. Can everybody see the whole sheet? Yeah, might have to scroll. Okay. Okay, and then sheet 3, A3 is another snapshot of the existing conditions, what the site looks like currently. Okay, and then I'll stop at sheet number 4, A4. Mark, is everybody able to see that? Maybe I just can't on mine. There we go. Okay, so this is the interior of the building, and the area that's pink and red is what will be used for this business currently. So, okay, and then sheet 5. Do you want to go to 5, Mark, please? These are some renderings of what elevations of what's proposed. So it will be spruced up a bit and have nice signage, which is considerably less in size than what would be allowed by zoning. So there's going to be two small signs, and then there'll be plantings, and the property will look very attractive, and it will have a nice appeal from curb appeal. Nice street elevation view. Okay, and then Mark, if you could go to A6, please. And I will have, first I'll have Brian talk about the security plan for the property, or for the business, and all the work that's been put into making sure that there's a very solid security plan for the business operation. Brian?
Yeah, so this is Brian Hackworth, owner of Security Fire Integration. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Just making sure. So security-wise, there's a few different systems that are going to be going in there. And again, it's all, the CCC pretty much regulates, what is required, and it's pretty stringent. There's, a camera system, which is a, full, high def camera system throughout the interior of the facility, as well as perimeter cameras to basically track the coming and goings of all the product. From the time it comes into the building to the time it leaves through a customer's hand, it's going to be videotaped and recorded, such as the other facilities that are in town all have to comply to the same regulations. So again, the camera system and it's all recorded to a hard drive on site, and so on. The system also has a access control as part of the security, which is a fob type of system, card access to get into the doors and the vault and secure areas, which each employee would have a access code and a fob to be able to enter the facility and those restricted areas, which also then logs the coming and goings of every employee of when and the times that they've come and gone through the facility. So if anybody needs to do an audit report of a certain employee or a certain door, It's all done through the software and so on. The next is a security system for intrusion, which is basically, you got your door contacts, your motion detectors, glass break sensors, and that's your security intrusion system. It's all set up with a cell backup and cellular monitoring to a central station. There's panic buttons in the vault and panic buttons throughout the place for the employees. So that aspect, you got your very stringent security in place. And again, it's all overseen by the CCC. They come and do a final inspection to make sure it's up to their standards for what they want. And it's very strict. And everything that we do will definitely comply to that. There will be a new fire system up to date in the new section of the dispensary, which then can be adapted and added on to if there's other phases throughout the rest of the building. And that's something I would work with, setting up and designing the prints for the fire department to kind of go through and make sure we're all on the same page, and to bring the building up to fire code for that. Other than that, I mean, the plans are, kind of, we got some markups and stuff like that, but it's, again, the CCC is very strict on the type and the amount of security cameras and devices that they want on site for the system. It's fun. I do a lot of methadone clinics, and they're not even close to the type of security they want for the dispensaries. So other than that, any questions on any of that aspect?
Brian, can I ask,
Sure.
I'm curious about one of the things we've seen in the past is sort of different ways people deal with deliveries, and specifically in this case, deliveries of product. How is that going to take place on the site here? I made the mistake of printing out the plans, and now I can't read them with my poor eye.
Yeah, I'll have to check with them on that. But if there's the delivery entrance there, it's going to be very secure with, I believe there's, I'm going to try to blow it up here too, but when the product comes in, there's, definitely cameras and so on. I'm not sure who, the delivery vehicles and stuff, but generally somebody, obviously an employee from Apical would be there to receive the package, but there is, definitely, security on the delivery point for as far as cameras, and or the person that might be delivering, they could have a panic button, a wireless panic button that they can carry. If there is ever a reason, they could push it to alert to the police department directly.
Okay. And will there be security staff on site, Brian, or is it really just the regular staff that will handle that?
That's probably a question for Cot or someone else. If you can chime in.
Is Cot on?
Yes. Hi. Sorry. Yes, we will have security personnel on site, and they would be working for Apical themselves. They'll be well trained. They'll go through our protocol and our background checks to make sure that they're well performed and well trained to do the job. Everybody's going to be pretty good, and they're going to be able to work the systems like the way they're supposed to work based on the requirements from the CCC and the guidance that we're given. Steve would be able to touch on that a little bit more, right, Steve?
Sure, Cod. Steve Chasen here from AC3 Consulting. I'm a compliance and security consultant for Apical. So we will have our own trained security on site. One of those people will be sitting in the security office checking IDs for everybody coming in. We'll also train other agents in security protocols. Those would be the guys that would, we're going to have parking lot attendants. We will have, for the bringing in of the marijuana product and such, they'll be part of that team. They're not going to be uniformed and look like a security guard, but they will, be Apical agents trained in the various security modules that the CCC requires and that we're also going to do internally. It's kind of a standard. So some groups in the bigger cities, they'll have security outside, third-party security that they'll hire from another company. Usually in the smaller dispensaries, and what we've seen pretty much in Central and Western Mass, is security is done by the establishment's own agents.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, anything else, Brian, that you?
Member Zarvis has a question.
James?
I don't want to interrupt the flow of your presentation, but of course, we've been through these kinds of projects and we got tons of questions. One of which, of course, there was a previous Apocal further down on the street. Is that correct? That project is gone. This is a whole new project, stands on its own merits.
That's correct.
How many employees is this going to have?
Cut.
We're gonna have 12 employees.
12? Okay, thank you. Please continue.
Okay, so Mark, if you could go back to A4, please, sheet A4, and Al Nardi, if you could please walk through the site, site circulation, the traffic pattern on site for everyone, please.
Before you shift, Member Sallier has a question. Was it about security, Brenda?
Yes, it was. Okay. Thanks, Jeff. I was just wondering, will any members of security or anyone working there carry any weapons?
No, the security here will be unarmed.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so I am not controlling the screen at the moment, but I'll do my best to get you to follow through this. If you move that drawing so that you can see Northampton Street, the person visiting will be entering the site from the existing curb cut that's there. We're not changing anything. That curb cut will be such where the people will enter. There will be a sign that is to let them know that it is it's an entrance only for the people visiting this facility. It's going to be a sign there that says no exit. And when they come in, they'll immediately be directed with one-way arrows to take a right and take a left. So they immediately find their way to the parking spaces. There's no confusion. Again, it's an existing parking area. If you've driven by it, you know that it's already paved. We're not changing any of that. We're not collecting new rainwater. We're not doing any of that other than beautifying the site. There's some landscaping that needs some touch-up, some replacement and whatnot. But the arrows, if you follow those red arrows, it'll show you exactly where traffic is flowing. And then it goes further up north along the side of the building. When it gets up to, if you could increase the size of that drawing would be helpful. Near the sides, yes, right there. And come down a little bit more. Thank you. Right there in the center of the drawing, you see some landscaping along the side of the building. That will be the entrance. It's a security entrance where people enter only. And there's a handicap ramp, obviously for ADA and whatnot. There are barrier-free parking spaces, specifically along that side. If there's some kind of a backup of couple of extra people waiting outside to get in during the COVID situation that we're in, there's more than ample space along the side of that building where people can be at least 6 feet apart from each other. So we sort of thought that through ahead of time.
Sorry to interrupt. So the sort of gray hatched stuff that's up there next to that Phase 3A building space, is that all going to just be grass?
No, that's all existing paving at the moment. There's
okay.
Okay. It's so basically going to be.
That's where you're envisioning a line could queue up if they needed to.
Exactly, Jesse. Thank you.
Gotcha.
That's exactly right. So if you move the drawing up just a little further, there you go. Yeah, so you come to the end. There's a dumpster area that sort of exists back there. It needs some cleanup and fix up, but you'll be taking a left there and finding your way. Continue, if you would, move the drawing. Continue to the left until you reach until you reach Mountain View. There'll be a stop sign there, obviously, and I am suggesting a no entry sign as well, so that the flow of traffic is very clear. Once you're in, you know exactly where you're going before you even get out of the building. So that's the flow of the traffic. There's more than ample enough parking spaces. I mean, more than ample. They exist, but they will be restriped so that they're seen clearly. Some of them are sort of messy at the moment. If you come back down to the building again, that would be great. That's good. The lightly shaded area and the red area is all the area that we're renovating in this existing vacant building. So we're bringing it back online as far as being an alive building in the town. The entrance up top, I said, is a security entrance, and that security person that was spoken about being on premises will be in a security office as soon as you come in. So he knows and he can see anything and everyone coming in besides the cameras. It's always better to have the live person watching what's going on. Then they'll come down to the lighter shaded area. And if you come to the other drawing, I think it's A5, I think it is, or A6. Yes, right there. There's arrows inside the building that basically let you know that even the flow inside has been thought through. They're going to be coming in, pull the drawing up just a touch. They'll be coming in and you'll see the arrows and the flow of motion inside the building. Can you bring it up just a hair more? I'm sorry, I meant down. There you go. So visitors will be coming in, working their way to the left and around clockwise. So if you were to match, and we've thought about even during COVID that we want to be 6-7 feet apart and so forth. Pretty much if you look at those arrows, that's showing you like 10 feet apart. So there's more than ample space to keep people apart, at least until all this craziness blows over. Then they'll find their way clockwise to the counter, and then their way out is the small red shaded area where it's a security exit door. And then that brings people outside back to the center of where all the parking is, easy to get to their car in either direction, and then they drive out. And that's the flow.
All right, Al, can I ask you a few questions? I'm sure the
Jess.
planning board members will too, but first of all, are those customer restrooms or are those only going to be for staff?
No, they're customer restrooms, and they can be used by staff, but they're customer restrooms, men and women, and they're ADA accessible.
Okay. Whoever's controlling the screen, I'm not even sure. Can we go back up to the traffic flow so I can just take a look at that? I want to ask specifically. So down at the entrance there, Al, off of Northampton Street,
yes,
there are arrows coming out, and I see this sort of area that's blocked off in red to the left. Is there something else going on in that structure still, unrelated?
That's I think that's the Cernak Fuel Building. Is that correct, Cott?
Yeah.
And you have some discussion regarding that?
Yes, that's a Cernak Fuel Building, correct.
Okay, and will that be in operation or being used or something? Or
that is currently in operation. That's currently being used.
And it will be used even after this place opens up?
Correct.
Okay, so that exit there at the front is really for anyone who's at the Cernak facility after you guys are up and running. Okay.
Correct.
And then just off the map here to the right is where Captain Jack's has set up, right? Is that still Cernak property, or is that I know it looks like it's a separate parcel, but
no, it is a separate parcel.
Okay.
It has its own address.
Okay. And a different entrance, right? It doesn't come in through here, it comes in further down.
It actually, yes, it has its own entrance, and they will be using their own entrance once we go in. They have curb cuts in front of that property.
And so will you be blocking off? I'm just sort of seeing that gap on the right-hand side of the parcel here. Will it be physically possible for someone to drive through to Captain Jack's, or is that going to be gated off or something?
That would be blocked off.
Okay.
We're not sure if they're going to even be there next year.
Yeah, I understand, right?
Yeah.
So it's sort of hard to plan, but
Yes.
I mean, assuming, I don't want to say worst case scenario, but assuming more complicated scenario where they are, how do you envision blocking off that section of the parking lot? Is that just going to be painted striping? Or are you going to put up planters or fencing?
We're going to put up planters.
Okay.
And that's some of the landscape, those little tree-looking planter kind of things that you see. That's the idea, is that they could be individual planters. They could be moved to where necessary, depending on people. You know how people change how they do things.
Yeah.
So if you can move the planters, you got better control.
Okay, and then one more question right now, Todd, I think it's probably for you. I just want to clarify. So is phase one, is this application just for retail?
Yes, this application is just for retail.
So you've sort of built into the space sort of the concept that you could expand to cultivation or manufacturing, but this
Yes, it would be like a unique craft cultivator.
Okay, but so for now, what we're looking at is simply a special permit for retail.
Yes.
All right. Okay, good. Any other planning board members have any questions at this point on any of the stuff that's been addressed already? Harry.
Yeah, if you were to go to Cernak Fuel, would you have to go all the way around the building, or could you just pull in here and take a right and then take a quick left? How would you get to Cernak Fuel from there?
Good question, Harry.
The building's on the left-hand side, so would you pull in and take a left, or have to go all the way around?
You would pull in and take a left.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're not restricting Cernak Fuel from using that space.
No.
Okay, so but maybe that sign won't say do not enter. It'll say Cernak Fuel business only or something like that.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Any other questions from the planning board on what we've heard so far?
I see Member Zarvis has a question, or his hand's raised.
You know, it occurs to me I should let them do their presentation. My questions may be answered. I'll save them for later.
All right.
Wait, if you could keep that right there, Mark. So I just wanted to point out the parking. So we have 49 spaces provided, which is adequate for both customers and for staff. And we are using parking area that exists now in the front of the building along Northampton Street, and there's going to be 11 spaces. So we are requesting a waiver to allow parking in the setback. It would be a waiver from section 10.511 of the ordinance to allow for this parking. So we just want to put that on the record and have that be part of your deliberation and decision, hopefully.
Can you restate those numbers, please? The numbers you're supposed to have, the numbers you don't have, the difference?
No, we have the sufficient parking. It's the location that we're in the front yard setback. It's 10.511A. No parking shall be permitted within the required front yard setback of the structure. So we're just using, again, this is existing parking. We're not creating any new parking area. And we actually are making it more attractive in that you see that there's shrubs along there, so we'll have some screening, which doesn't exist.
The standard established under section 10.511A of the Easthampton zoning ordinances specifically says no parking in that front setback unless buffering exists. It's in the format outlined in 10.515B, which is specifically just says, you need to have a certain amount of buffering from the abutting road line. And that's entirely a board determination as to whether or not it meets with that criteria.
Okay, so we have a waiver to look at. Can you tell me about the numbers of parking here? I know there's 12 employees, the number of possible customers, and total spots. Also, any AMA spot.
Well, I can answer the question. You need 13 parking spaces for this phase, this project, if you will. 2 of them being barrier free. There's 45 parking spaces that are provided, and 4 of them barrier free. But again, because it's existing paved area, not because we decided to spend money that we didn't need to, but it's existing and it needs to be cleaned up and dialed up. And then I think you just heard Ellen say that we're planning the new screening along the Northampton Street there, so that we do screen this existing paved area that screening doesn't exist at the moment.
Okay, any other questions? So I'll just wrap up my presentation and then it could be opened up to questions. Just to emphasize the benefit of the business that would be coming into the city, that there's a 3% local state tax that's required to be paid. It's part of the CCC regulations. And additionally, there would be increased valuation of the property, so the real estate taxes would be greater. In addition, as part of the host community agreement that was negotiated, Apical has agreed to pay yet an additional 3% of its gross sales to the city of Easthampton, so additional 3% of its gross sales. They've also offered to have a local hiring preference so that they're committed to giving Easthampton residents priority for the positions that the hiring for positions at the facility. And again, this is an existing building that is being repurposed. So it's taking a building in the highway business district along an active road, and it's going to make it reused and increase its visual impact so that it will be a lot more attractive. So we think that these are definitely benefits, and meanwhile it's using existing utilities. There won't be any really increase in the resources to the city. So we're available for all your questions. Thank you.
Yeah, Jim.
Sure, others are going to have them. I got about 1 million. Excited to have this project before us and the use of this building. I can see right here on this plan on the bottom right, it says no new paving, which you've mentioned, and existing drainage to remain. Do you have any idea what the existing drainage is?
I can answer that. There's no particular drainage other than towards the back where there's some natural area, but there are no catch basins in any of this paved area that I was able to find.
Okay. All right. I don't have the zoning in front of me at the moment, but I would like to look up, hopefully at another meeting, to find out exactly what the use is and the required number of spaces to verify the numbers that you have here for parking. Another thing that stood out to me is Chair Jesse, he asked the question as to what those gray hash marks were. And I kind of got the sense that, there's some striping for the lines, but you're sort of indicating flow with them. You're not actually putting up, green space or an island in those spots. I just want to confirm that was your answer to that question. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct at the moment. Other than the additional shrubbery and so forth that you see noted as little shrubs, if you will.
So are the curved structures going to be painted?
There are no curb structures there other than along the existing building.
I'll use an example where it says sign no exit at the entry. You can kind of see that little, I don't know if you want to call it conical.
Like the hash mark.
That hash area, that's simply painting.
Okay.
Correct.
Verifying. Okay.
Just a follow-up question on that, just for clarification. So I think moving forward, getting a little bit more detail about what it'll look like painted. So, are you envisioning, so this kind of the painted island here, the arch?
Yes.
And then, I think moving forward, you don't need to necessarily answer it now, but is that white lines, and do you have like an idea of thickness and how far apart the white lines would be, or are you just going to outline all of this? Just more clarification on what that will look like, I think, will be important, because I think it's hard to tell if you're proposing to paint hashed lines or if you're just proposing to paint the parking spaces themselves, or outline it.
Yeah, we're proposing to paint the perimeter of the hashed lines, but not inside the hashed lines. The light gray 45-degree hashing is just to make it easier for you to understand where the parking space is and where it's not. We're not planning to paint the whole thing green or anything to that effect at this point, unless there's some real good reason to do so.
So I'd love to touch on the shrub type and the lights, but we'll get to it. Can you tell me about the number of customers that you're expecting and your limits as far as this traffic flow, and maybe your plan if you get too many?
Yeah, do you want to talk about customers?
Yes. So we're planning on seeing about 200 customers per day. I mean, that number can go up, but it's based on it's actually based on what everybody else is seeing with other retails that are opening up. I mean, there's not that big of a high customer count at the moment, and that's probably based on COVID. I'm not sure either, but things could change. It's just not a number that we can actually put our fingers on, but it's based on the data that we got from the area. Pretty much we're seeing about maybe 200 customers per day, if lucky.
Do you have a limit for the number that you're going to allow in at one time?
Yes. We're looking at probably about maybe 8 to 10 people per transaction, only because of COVID. We can't, I mean, I think we're down to like 50% capacity, and we have to also include our employees as well. So we have to restrict the amount of people that would be inside the facility.
This is really interesting because, you know, the hope, and it's a hope, I'd be being naive here, but at some point we'll get beyond COVID. And it makes me think that we really should kind of hear that, because it's important to now, but it might not be where we're at 2 years from now. So I kind of wonder if there's a non-COVID view of the number of max customers, you know, that you might have.
Okay, so we're looking at about 24 customers per hour. So we're looking at 240 customers per day. Is the number we're looking at, is our projection.
Right. That's a sizable number. It looks like there's a lot of square footage inside the business, probably one of the larger spaces I've seen for this. Do you have a sense of how much square footage is in that sort of entry area where customers go in?
It's 2,400 square foot, roughly. Where they go in, actually, on the top, or?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, 2,400 square feet where the customers are actually allowed to be.
Uh-huh. And they're kind of wrapping around that corner toward the parking lot is where you kind of indicated that they'll line up to get in. Is that right, or do I have that wrong?
No, you have it right.
I don't want to hog this, guys. I got tons more. Anyone else want to throw in?
I have one on the for the lighting and the light poles. Those are all the existing poles, or are you proposing any additional lighting or reduction in lighting?
Go ahead, Scott.
They're existing. We're not proposing any additional lighting because around the building there's already lights underneath the soffit that we're just going to upgrade. And Al, you know more about the lights than I would about the requirements for the lights.
Yeah, he's also planning to reuse the existing light poles that are there and use the screening as necessary so that the lighting obviously stays just on his portion of the property. But we're not adding any additional light poles.
So are you putting new fixtures on? Because that was sort of what I was wondering. If we're sort of doing more downward facing and reduced light spillage, are there going to be new fixtures on the existing poles?
Correct.
New fixtures on the existing poles. Okay. Do we have details of what they look like yet?
Cott, I don't know. I know you had a lighting expert looking at it, but we don't have the actual fixture photograph, do we?
No, we don't.
We don't hear you.
You're on mute.
You're muted, Cott. Sorry.
No, we don't actually have the actual picture yet. Okay. We still have to decide it, and it'd be based on the requirement, what is allowed, basically.
Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah, because I definitely want to see a lighting plan showing that there is no spillage off of this property of light, because I imagine the existing light poles and lights are older, so they might not meet current requirements. The other is trash. Are you what kind of trash are you going to be generating here? Is there any products in the trash, or is it just paper goods?
Steve's going to speak on that. I'll defer that one to Steve.
Sure, good question. So we're going to generate garbage just as any kind of retail establishment would. We're going to have cardboard boxes that our products are going to come in, general refuse. That'll all go in a dumpster out back there, and I think it's depicted on the site plan there.
Yeah.
As far as marijuana waste to the extent possible, we're gonna ship it back to our wholesale partners. The small amount that we do have, which are usually vape cartridges, sometimes some expired edibles, sometimes there's a little bit of marijuana flower. We're going to take that and we're going to destroy it on site. Then it's going to be mixed up with inert material such as cat litter, sand, soil, dirt. It's going to be mixed up, made unusable per the CCC regulations, and then that will go into a dumpster, the same dumpster, and be carted off. We'll have an agreement with our they're going to know that there's possibly marijuana waste in there. It's really not technically marijuana waste now that it's made unusable, but that's a standard throughout the industry. Obviously, if we move forward to the cultivation, it'll be brought back there and destroyed in that manner.
Okay, and then the trash gets picked up every day, once a week, every other day?
I'm not sure what that schedule would be. It would be the schedule as needed. We wouldn't put the product, the wasted product, into the dumpster until that day, just because, the off chance somebody trying to dumpster dive thinking there's something valuable in there. But
and then the dumpster will be locked?
Dumpster is locked with padlocks. I believe it's also in an enclosure that's going to be locked, and it's going to be under camera view per CCC regulations.
Okay, I have two more quick questions. The arrows that are on the pavement, they're just for to show us the one way, or will they be actually stenciled on the pavement to show people?
They'll be stenciled on the pavement, Chris.
They will, okay.
Yeah.
And one other clarification question. This is an Apical application. Is this to replace the one that was down near the Southampton border? Or is this the one that was up the road where Furs Are Flying was proposed? I'm just confused.
This is the old Wamiko Way.
Wamiko Way, okay. All right, thank you.
So if we could scroll down in this picture, please, toward the entrance, with the driving entrance. I see that there are some shrubs. Yeah, right in there. That there are some shrubs that are being proposed to be planted there. Do you have any kind of concept? Are you planning to do a traffic study for this? I'm curious about not only the flow, how it's going to affect Northampton Street, but also about the view turning left and how tall those shrubs are going to be. Can you tell us a little bit about those shrubs to make sure that there's no, that you have sufficient view coming in and out?
I think there was a traffic study done. Is that correct?
There's a traffic study that we submitted.
Yeah, we do have that in our materials.
Yeah. Okay. I'll have to review that. I haven't seen that yet. Okay, so let's talk about that.
So similar to what's along the building, these shrubs are such that they're not more than 2 feet, something to that effect. But it's enough of a screening that gets you from the ground up to the hood of a car, but not much higher than that. So the driver could see over it. It's more or less a screening for the lights that might be at that parking space, if you will.
Okay, so they're short. But
the specific shrubs have not been selected yet.
Okay. Is there somebody who can speak to the actual traffic report that was done?
Todd?
Yes. The traffic report was done by McMahon Associates. And what they did was they counted 11,700 vehicles and 6,000 northbound and 5,700 southbound. And they conducted the traffic study in September. I believe it was September 13th, if I was correct. And McMahon Associates, they've done multiple traffic studies along Route 10. I believe they've done one for the market that's going up the street there. I forgot the name of it. Valley Co-op?
River Valley Co-op, yeah.
Yes. And they also did one for Liberty, if I'm correct also. So they've done a few in the area. They're very good and they're pretty much on point. I understand that the traffic count might be a little bit low, but it seems right to me because, I drive on Route 10 as well, and it doesn't seem like there's that much vehicle going along that route at this point. The traffic count was based on I think they did one near up the street, and I forgot what they had. Sorry, I'd have to pull it up.
If it please the board and the applicant, I can comment a little bit on it, just from the perspective of staff review. Is that
there was a supplemental report done? Is that right, Curtis? After you spoke with them?
Correct. So there's one traffic assessment, number 7 in the original submittal provided on October 13th of this year. And then on October 20th, following initial discussion with the applicant's team submitted a memo, which serves as an addenda that supplements the original traffic assessment, but does not replace it.
That's what I saw. Yeah, I was looking for a full new one.
Right. So the original traffic assessment in the first folder, just titled 2020-1013 _ original submittal, that number 7 traffic assessment is still operational, but I had an initial dialogue with the applicant. Because the source of their information was from the site of the proposed River Valley Co-op, which is about 3/4 of a mile further north on Northampton Street, and after the major turnoff at Lyman Street. So I just wanted to make sure that a traffic count slightly closer would represent the same numbers, and McMahon Associates came back on 10/20 with a report that says that, yeah, in fact, the traffic counts are the same at 11,700 at both of those two locations, recognizing that under both circumstances, they're using archive data from 2019 and 2018 respectively at those two points, or at least that's my interpretation of it, granting that I'm not a traffic engineer. I also, while I'm still taking up airspace here, wanted to comment that initial traffic survey, which I'm pulling up here, on page 6 of 7 has the site distance table for exiting from the site at Mountain View Street and at site driveway. Admittedly, the only people who should be leaving from the site driveway are basically customers to the Cernak fuel site. There's no exit there right now for customers at the Cannabis facility because they're being routed through the site and then out to Mountain View Road. But in both cases, the site distance, they evaluated that it meets the site distance requirements of AASHTO at both the Mountain View Street exit onto Northampton Street and the site exit onto Northampton Street, the latter of which you can see in the current zoom that Mark's controlling. So,
great.
I'd like a little clarification on this, if that's okay, Mr. Chair.
Please.
I'm looking at it now, and I've just perused this document, reading it as quickly as I can, rereading.
And granting that my opinion on the matter is not authoritative.
It's okay. I appreciate your throwing in. So what I want to make sure I'm understanding correctly here as I look at this data. I feel like we're reusing data that was done for a nearby project, which is great. It gives us a baseline of what's there, and I think that's probably accurate even with some time going by. We already know near Lyman, that area of Northampton Street, that's very busy. But what I'm not seeing here, and I want to be specific, if you can help point it out to me, and this could go to the applicant, is where the data specific for this location for the number of uses, expected uses, and the change to the road is shown in this addendum. You understand what I'm asking?
Yeah,
it won't be in the addendum, unfortunately. So the addendum was specifically answering to my question, and I apologize for this. So the addendum was specifically answering to my inquiry about from whence was specifically answering to my question about where they're getting their specific traffic counts. So they set up an automated traffic counter 3/4 of a mile up the road. I said, do you have data a little bit closer to the site? And they said, yes, here's our road conditions. But the answer's only to that question. For information regarding trip generation from the Cannabis site, that's page 5 of the original traffic assessment in that original submittal folder.
The table 2 there, James, on page 5 has trip generation, and it's got the existing use or the former use of the auto dealership, and then also the adult use Cannabis.
Got it. Okay. I see it here. Thank you for pointing that out. That helps. And in terms of the time of this document, the original with the submittal, I want to be sure this submittal is part of the new submittal packet for Apocal in this new location, not the old one done. Correct?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, I appreciate your clarifying that for me.
All right, any other questions from planning board members? Harry?
Yeah, are we going to have home deliveries and stuff from this place? Out of curiosity.
Sure.
Is that part of the plan?
No.
No, we're not.
No.
Harry, any other questions?
Oh, I'm all set.
Any other planning board member questions at this point?
I have a quick one, but I can wait till after Jeff.
All right, Jeff?
All right, I know I don't qualify as a planning board member, but I just, I wanted to ask about I have questions about traffic, but I'll hold them a little bit longer, but the access to the back, the entrance to the facility, I guess this is a question for the security team and maybe Steve Chasen is does the Cannabis Control Commission allow visitors and product delivery to use the same door? I'm just trying to think, the way the parking queues up and you're going to be lining up customers in, is that allowable through the Cannabis Control Commission regulations in terms of using the same doorway access point?
Sure, it is allowable.
Okay.
It's all based on design. We have, some facilities that have a drive-in bay. We have other ones very, smaller or in just the location that can't facilitate that. So what we typically do in those situations is we know when the deliveries are coming. We know what time they're coming. They're calling us on the phone 5 minutes prior to getting there. So in those situations where it would be during working hours, we would allow so many people in, and then we would physically, with staff, stand out there and make sure nobody's in that direct vicinity when the transfer takes place. Typically, the transfer takes place in 2 to 3 minutes. The product is taken out of the van. It's brought into the secure facility. At that point, the delivery driver and our agents would take all of the product in, would weigh it, would do an inventory on it. Inventory comes out great. We sign off on it, and the delivery driver drives away. So, we have done these in other circumstances and other retailers.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. And then my quick note on lighting is if the applicant team goes away, the pole, I think we understood some of the existing poles are going to get reused, but in the fixture type was discussed. So some kind of specifications for the fixture. But one of the important parts is also the wattage of the bulbs you're going to propose to put in there. That's kind of how you begin to calculate where the lights will cast down and on which property they'll land. So just be also thinking about the wattage that you need for the lighting fixture. So I think with that, I'm done for now.
On that subject, one thing I'll say is in their addendum, special permit narrative addendum 1, the applicant suggests that they'll be using 90-watt Kelvin LED fixtures.
I got Chris and then James.
So my question is very, very simple. I think it is anyway. I'm looking at the plan set and I've got all sorts of logos all over this. The Apocal, then I've got something that looks like a bunch of arrows all pulled together. Then I've got fire ants, and then I have another logo with K that's mirrored. Is this some sort of consortium that's doing this, or is it just Apocal? And who's the
Todd, if you want to address, it's going to be Fire Ants is the name of the business. That's the signage. But Todd, if you want to add anything.
Yes. It's Apocal. Apocal. It's all under Apocal, and we're just going to use Fire Ants as a retail, just like
DBA.
Most of the other cannabis companies out there, they use one for their cultivation, a different name, and then they will use their retail, multiple names for a different retail.
Okay, so what's the symbol with the K that's kind of mirrored backwards? It looks like a pyramid or something.
It's just a logo. It's
just a logo for Fire Ants?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a logo we came up with for Fire Ants, yes. Were you expecting flames maybe?
Or maybe an ant. I don't know. It seems very like a weird, but just here or there.
We couldn't go with cartoon characters because it's against CCC regs. So we had to just use some sort of logo or symbol or something like that.
Understood. Thank you.
Think of that. You're welcome.
Mr. Zarvis.
That was a good question, Chris. So back to the traffic here. It looks to me like we're saying during the weekdays, there's expected 35 new vehicle trips, 22 entering and 13 exiting. Weekday afternoon peak hours, and 84 new vehicle trips, 42 entering and 42 exiting during the Saturday midday peak hour. So that's just for a single hour. And I wanted to compare that number with I think you said 200 customers. I might be misremembering, but I think you said 200 customers in a day. Now, granted, the peak hours, you're going to have the most, so I'm sure it trickles off before and after. With 35 being in the peak, I'm trying to like wrap my head around. My guess is that's going to end up being somewhat more than 200, but knowing how things are going right now and the fact that there's a bunch of competition out there and stuff, I think probably 200 is a realistic number. This number of vehicle trips being at 35, I'm wondering if there's a view of where that number is going to go on off-peak and just trying to get a sense of accuracy with these numbers. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I believe that number is going to go down at off-peak. I mean, that's the high peak numbers, and I believe it's probably going to go down probably to 20, 15. It just depends on the time of day, and we don't have real data of when actually individuals go to these cannabis retails. I mean, during the weekends, it might be the busiest, as we can all see from all the other retailers, but during the weekday at its highest peak, it would be very low. I mean, the weekend is probably where we're going to see about 200 customers per day.
Okay. And it notes here that it's a result of about a 2% increase in traffic on Northampton Street overall due to your business, which I just want to note out to the board. Looking at these numbers for traffic and this information for traffic, I'm pretty satisfied with that, just tossing that out there.
Thanks, Jim. Any other planning board comments or questions? Brenda.
Just have a quick question, Scott. What are your hours of operation going to be?
It's going to be from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week.
Okay, thanks.
I saw in there, Scott, that that's sort of what the first request is, but that you might expand those. Do you want us to limit any decision to those hours, or are you looking for the full possible hours under the bylaw so you have that flexibility?
I actually want that flexibility, yes.
That's what I thought, okay. Harry, did I see you raising a hand there?
Yeah, the only point I would like to make was this used to be a car dealership. So you had quite a few people going in and out of there in the course of a day looking at the used cars, getting their car serviced, that type of thing. So they must have had, some kind of traffic going in and out of there in the course of a day. So maybe that's only half of what they're planning on having for their 200, but it still must have had some kind of a significant traffic flow going in and out of there on a regular basis.
Yeah, that initial traffic study, Harry, compares the ITE numbers for a auto dealership. So there was some significant traffic going back there at the time. That's correct.
There was not.
Any other comments or questions from planning board members? Jim.
All right, it's the very beginning. It's always worse in the beginning. So we noted that there was going to be no change to the water runoff, and that's a little bit of a flag for me. I just want to note that. I'm just kind of curious. I know that it's a lot of bituminous surface there, and we don't really know what's underneath. I wonder if this maybe is an opportunity to check and make sure that it's not running off in other people's property. I don't know if there's any abutters that'll speak to anything like that later, but I'm just curious at all if there's a plan to do a better job of investigating how water's being handled.
Well, I can tell you that as I spent the time there during a rainy morning, I was noting that the runoff was finding its way towards where the dumpster area was in the back. It was not running to the adjacent property, at least where I was standing and where I was standing measuring some of the entranceway over there. So it's not, it's definitely not going towards a neighbor, but it is going more towards the back of the property.
if I'm not wrong, James, I think we only get our hands on them for stormwater if they make it worse. I believe the bylaw sort of allows ongoing uses, which isn't to say that people don't want to fix that kind of a problem, but it may limit our options at least. Any other planning board comments or questions?
Thank you, Jesse, for explaining that.
Yeah, no problem. All right, any members of the public with comments or questions about this project? Again, you can either raise a virtual hand on Zoom. You can raise your actual hand.
We have a gentleman.
I got someone here, Galaxy S9. Sir, can you start with your name and address and then please lay it on us?
Yeah, my name's Stan. You hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes, my name is Stan Palauskas. I own the property across the street and operate the Burger King restaurant. I welcome the activity on there. I think the board needs to pay a little bit more attention on the traffic. I think there's a few things. The traffic counts today are not what they're going to be once we get on the other side of COVID. And certainly they're going to draw some traffic. I think there's some things they can do internally. And if you look at the map that they had, I appreciate the entrance only. I think that's better than it being an exit. But if you look, they're allowing people that might want to go to Cernic to turn left. Yet on the Cernic fuel, on the Cernic side, they have a do not enter. I think that's kind of counterproductive. They should look at that. I don't know if they have the right to not allow them because most people don't come in that entrance. The other thing is, I think their entrance only, that just to the right of the entrance only once they get onto their property, that striped area probably should be more hardscaped. Because if they just stripe it, unfortunately, we have it in all the other operations that we operate throughout the state. People are going to drive across that, and that entrance only could become an exit. And as you know, Route 10 at best is, when it's very busy, can get very difficult getting in and out. We're planning a major remodel next spring, obviously, which is going to add traffic. And just so you have some sense, we generate about 500 cars a day. I think you got to look at that. The other thing is the Cernic traffic before, and we've sit there for 40 years. The Cernic traffic, most of it comes from the site around the back, where they're proposing as they're going to flow their traffic back there. Most of their traffic was coming in back. They were not doing a ton of retail up front. There was very little traffic going. I just say that's the one piece that you just need to make sure you're concerned. And I think they can make some improvements internally with their traffic flow. Those parking spaces that are right on Route 10 where they have the planters, if they simple things like angling those parking spaces so when people are backing out, it's going to point them in the direction of their exit. Little things like that. It's just the way the public is. So again, I support the project, but we need to be concerned, at best, I have to depend on Good Samaritans to let my customers in and out of our site. And my guess is with their curb cut fairly close, I think, to that, we just need to be cautious to make sure it flows properly for everybody.
Thank you. Just to clarify on the traffic counts, I do think they used pre-COVID numbers. So I think it was back from 2018. So,
but if they didn't use it there, remember weren't there when Big Y Stop and Shop was coming in? Did they not have more current traffic studies literally right there in front of Tasty Top? Because if you go up where they're putting in the where the old Fedor's was,
yep,
the traffic does fall off there.
Yeah,
and it's heavier closer to town. And I would assume a lot of their traffic, given all their competition, both up the street at the old Valley Sports Center and then what they've got in Northampton, I'm assuming they're going to get a lot more traffic coming from downtown rather than coming from the other area. And again, I'm not opposed to it, but we need to be careful because that's always been a difficult area. And we just need to be careful that we operate it right. I like the fact that it's an entrance only.
Thank you. Al, he did just raise an issue that I think we were sort of dancing around, but the idea of the sort of painting as opposed to sort of a structure in the parking lot to sort of direct the cars. Have you given any thought to that and whether that might be helpful or what do you think?
Well, it's possible, and I think we can look at that. But I sort of like his idea about angling those particular parking spaces.
Yeah,
that's a very clever thought.
So maybe we can do a little more internal review of that sort of traffic patterns and whether it would be helpful to either angle spaces or build some physical structures that might help keep people in line.
Yeah, well, we'll take a look at that, but obviously we don't want to start trapping water,
right?
Because we're creating structures.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Any other comments or questions from the public? I got a Leslie Cernak.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, my name is Leslie Cernak, and I live on Florence Road in Florence. Thank you, Stan, for what you had to say, because I actually want to add to that a little bit. My brother and I own properties, the 2 lots that abut 102 Northampton Street, and our renters are Cernak Fuel. So it's the front office building and the back shop building. I'd like to say that Cott has been wonderful to work with. He's been very transparent, and he's made great efforts to let all the neighbors know what his plans were. But I'm opposed to the special permit unless a survey is done and all parties can abide by the lot lines. Just to give you a little bit of background here, the Cernak families, which owned Cernak Fuel and Cernak Buick, have given each other mutual permission to cross their properties for decades. My father, Mike Cernak, and Ken's father, Sam Cernak, allowed permissive uses before us. They were brothers, we're cousins. This was for the benefit of our families and our businesses, which operated on those properties. But things have changed. We no longer own those businesses, and we now have an obligation to our tenants. We know that major parking and traffic problems were created at Netta and other local cannabis dispensaries. For safety reasons, we need to restrict access to people crossing our property. Just within the last 2 months, there was a near-miss accident when a customer of Captain Jack's crossed our property to exit onto Northampton Street. This near accident prompted our installations of temporary stanchions, which Cott and Jennifer Cernak and Jeffrey Cernak helped us place. We've explained to Cott that the permissive use of our property would not be extended to Apical. To be clear, I have no issue concerning Apical's flow of traffic plan, as we saw the single entrance which goes into the parking lot, winds around the business, and then comes out onto Mountain View Street. I think that is a good plan. Cott has agreed to abide by the lot lines, but there has been no survey done to say exactly where the lot lines are. And the area of entrance that you saw on the map is a deeded right-of-way on my property to that lot, but we don't know just where it is. I feel this needs to be addressed and settled to assure that both tenants will be able to maintain maximum parking for their customers and employees and to ensure safety. And I respectfully request that the planning board require a survey before granting the special permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Cott, any comments on that with respect to the survey, or anybody else from the team?
Yes. I mean, is a survey required for that? I mean, if it is, then we can have a survey completed, but what is that gonna really change if we're crossing over, if both properties has right of ways and both properties are crossing over one another anyways? I've talked to Leslie, and I've also mentioned to her that we're gonna have a parking attendant who will actually be outside directing the traffic flow to make sure nobody actually impedes and goes in that direction. And we're gonna have that in place throughout our operation. I mean, I think that would really help with that issue, and we don't have an issue with them reversing back or using part of that curb cut in any way because they have the right of way for it. I mean, I don't see an issue with it, but if that's what she really wants, that's fine with us. But I mean, I wouldn't want it to hold up our special permit being granted, and we can actually do it for her afterwards.
Leslie, just to clarify, are you concerned about traffic getting over to the Captain Jack's parcel or the Cernak fuel parcel? I'm just trying to get it straight in my head.
The prior permissive uses were not just the entrance. They were crossing Cernak fuel properties, Cernak Buick properties. As I mentioned, these were brothers in business, now cousins, and now the cousins have sold the businesses. So the concern here is not just the front entrance, but the other permissive areas as well. One of the key concerns with the entrance is that the pins are now gone. I'm assuming they're buried under 70 years of pavement. And so I don't even know that what is marked on the paper is how it's actually going to play out on the street. On paper, it looks good, but where we don't know where the pins sit, I think that a survey is very necessary so that all parties can be in agreement.
Yeah, Rick Cernak.
Hi, Rick Cernak, Williamsburg. I'm Leslie's brother, and we own 100 North Hampton Street and the building out behind Cernak Buick, behind the subject property at the end of Mountain View Street. Just to expand on what Leslie has been talking about, we've had some areas. Can somebody pull up the apical application that shows the lot lines for both our properties in the front?
Sorry, I got disconnected. I actually lost my screen sharing.
Jeff, do you have the ability to pull that up?
Yep, it's done.
Thank you. If you give me a second, 1 second.
Lots of eager helpers.
Oh no, I'm not host. I cannot.
Yeah, Curtis, I got him. I'll make you co-host again. Oh, I can't.
No, I can. I got it. I figured it out. Slow and steady wins the race. 1 second. So you want the? Yep. Okay, Mark has it again. Never mind. We're good.
Okay, good. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right. So no matter what map you look at, whether it's the city's map of this map, or anything, they're all different. The only one that I trust is actually Kenneth had a survey done back in 1985 that was certified by a registered, and it's in the Registry of Deeds, and it was done by a registered or certified licensed surveyor, Huntley Associates, Almer Huntley. Where it gets a little funky is if you look at the curb cut, it's not quite right there, but that's close enough. And I like his traffic patterns that are here. It works for me. Where it gets funky is between the two buildings. As soon as it gets back to the back of 100 North Hampton Street, which is the small Cernak Fuel building, and yeah, in that area there, we're just below the pointer. That area there has been shared forever, probably 80 years, 70, 80 years. And that's the area that we don't have markings. We don't know where the pins would be. There actually probably weren't ever any pins. And we really need to see that surveyed, because we got to talk about this. This has to be part of this discussion. And I'd like to see pins wherever there aren't any pins. Now there's pavement in a couple of those turns, a couple of the corners, and metal pins can be embedded in the pavement. The nice thing about metal pins is I can find them with a metal detector. It would also be useful to have the surveyor put in some thin lines, just some thin, maybe even gray lines or white lines that'll go away in a year, so that we have this discussion on site with Cott, Leslie, me, Jennifer, Jeffrey, Kenneth. We can all talk about this and talk about how we're going to handle it. I've recommended doing rights of way, reciprocal rights of way to Kenneth And Ken is our first cousin. Great guy, real quiet, loves to sell cars. Well, he's not selling cars right now, but he told me a few weeks ago that, you know, we've always had it this way. We've always worked together. And I said, you know, Ken, things have changed. Things are changing here quickly, and we've got to work this out. We have to cross their property a little bit to park in the back of our building on the right. And they have to cross ours where that point sort of, if you look at the corner that sticks out closest to the retail area, it's got that blue and red line. That we'd love to see. We'd love to see some lines there, just so we can talk about this and see what we can do. But I'm not comfortable not having a survey because things are changing quickly. Nobody knows where these lines are. We've had people parking on our property, customers and salespeople, vendors, all kinds of folks, and vice versa too, over the years. And it gets very obstructive sometimes. We used to have car haulers park in front of our building in the front and unload cars so that you couldn't even see your way out. You couldn't have a good distance, a sight distance view of the traffic coming at you. And people get confused. And it may be a good idea. I'm in favor of some hardscape there. Nothing that would cause drainage to change, but things like planters or something along the lines. But we have to know where the lines are. I just think it makes sense, and I want COT to know that the sooner it gets done, the sooner this thing can move along. And I'd like to have it done before the snow flies, if he can do it, and I'd like to be part of it. That's what we're looking for. We've looked into other businesses that have been neighbors to cannabis establishments, and it is a nightmare for them. I like COT. I didn't think I would, but I think I do. And so, you know, he's worked with us really well, and I think his intentions are good. I don't think he intends to use this spot, but he can't control people coming in Mountain View Street and parking in our front yard and walking over while the parking attendants or the security attendants are over the other side of the building. You know, that's the kind of stuff we have to talk about here.
So I want to make a proposal, because I do think that from the planning board's perspective, we do sort of have to have a clear idea of what the parcel is and who may or may not be on it. It sounds to me like this might be something that Rick and Leslie and COT, you guys can get together. I mean, we're going to have to continue this hearing anyway, just because of the time and because we have to put a decision together. So I'm wondering if maybe you guys can try to meet in the interim and see if you can resolve this, whether it's by a survey or some other way, to at least clarify sort of where the lines are and be able to confirm for us along that. Does that seem like something you guys can?
We've already done that, Jesse. We've already done it. We've gotten together. Like I said, COT's been good. But we don't know where the lines are. I mean, it really is a good time to do a survey, to have one done. We're not changing the use of our property. It's still Cernak Fuel. It has been forever.
I would like to have, this is a new issue for me. I am not familiar with this, so I would like to deal with this outside of the hearing before we come back to the.
I think that makes sense. I mean, Rick, if we do need to get involved, we can, because I do think we need to know where the lines are and who's going to be using the property. But I think this seems like something that can probably be handled much better outside the public hearing. And if it can't, then we can try to insert ourselves if we have to. But I have to believe that the parties involved are better equipped to deal with that. So I think, especially because we're already going to probably have to continue this, that it just makes sense to roll this into that. And if you can't work it out, then you can't. But I think Ellen's probably right that this is the best way to try to at least take the first stab. Brenda, did I see your hand up? Did you want to chime in on this?
Yeah, I was just thinking along the same lines. I think this is a property owner issue, and COT's, he's not the property owner. So unless I'm wrong, I think you can go ahead and have a survey done. You could call tomorrow. I'm not a land use lawyer, but it seems to me that's kind of a separate issue for the property owners. And I don't think anything prevents you from just going ahead and ordering a survey for your property. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think that's right, Brent. I think for our perspective, we do need to know you know, we don't usually encounter disputes about where the property line is. And I think this one is a little fuzzier because there's all these reciprocal agreements, it sounds like, for permissive uses and easements and things. So
if I may,
maybe a little more complicated. One sec, Rick. But I do think that it makes sense to let the parties try to talk this out before we get involved. Rick?
Yeah, I want to clarify a couple of things. One is that there is a deeded right-of-way that is Leslie and I at Cernak Fuel property here are the, as they would call it, the burden party, and the Cernak Buick folks would be the benefiting party. There's no problem with that. That's understood, and it's not on this map, but it's I can't control it here, but it's the vertical line that you see that comes off of Northampton Street and heads right up toward the building. If you go, yeah, right in that area there. Yes, Leslie and I own 2/3 of that curb cut. If you go down on the curb cut just a tad, if you scroll down, okay, there you go. We own 2/3 of that curb cut, and the middle third is the right of way. So in essence, COT will have a deeded right, or Kenneth Cernak has a deeded right to the middle part of that, and we both have use of the middle third. The only part of that curb cut that Kenneth Cernak actually owns is the right side there, the approximately 10 to 11 feet width. And again, that's not a problem so much as the area coming back straight up. It's about 69 feet, according to what I've seen on the survey. And then it curves to the left as it's shown, but it doesn't go as far as it appears there. So there is only one deeded right-of-way. The rest have been permissive use over the years. And there's no dispute here. It's just that there's just a lot of stuff going on. And it's a good time for us to look at this as an opportunity to get together and come to something. And it involves the plan. What's the plan here? You know,
yeah, I think you're right. I'm glad you brought this up, and it's certainly something that needs to get addressed. I will be shocked if Ellen's involvement won't help move this along, and I think that that's probably the best way to do it. But if it doesn't, Rick, you guys come back to the next hearing and we'll address it. But I think that that's probably the easiest way to at least try to make a stab at it here. Jeff?
Thanks. I think the other thing that while we're talking about this, and I think embarking on like a to-do list, you know, I believe from my initial review of this as well, there's a similar question about Mountain View Street, and I'm not an expert in what a permissive use would have allowed, but I think you know, I think when we met initially, there were some questions about Mountain View Street and who is giving the authority to cross over Mountain View Street. I think because I just want to be clear that for the applicable proposal is on a parcel, let's call it parcel A. Parcel B was the one that Rick Cernak was just talking about, and I would say that it's a little bit unclear what is Mountain View Street. I'd call it parcel C. I think we need clarity on who is going to give permission to use parcel C for access to and from this parcel A.
Jeff, is Mountain View not a public way?
Correct. It's not a public way. I know that there are questions about the historical, you know, ownership pattern, and I can see how, you know, the family structure has changed over time. I'm concerned that just hearing what Rick Cernak had said is the building in the back uses Mountain View Street for access. Then the dispensary will use Mountain View Street as access, but there's also a third parcel that's listed for sale and currently being, you know, actively promoted, which may also use that. And at some point, there needs to be some way to delineate who's controlling Mountain View Street and along the lines of what improvements might be necessary over time and the installation of signs. So I don't mean to pile on, but I think the status of Mountain View Street and who owns it and who can give permission to cross over it, I think it's important to review now.
Great point, Jeff. I did not even catch that. I didn't know that was true. Does anybody have any experience with this? Rick, you want to shed some light on this?
Yeah, just so you know, I've grown up on this property in essence. I didn't live there, but I spent most of my career here. And I watch property lines, things coming in and out quite a bit, front and back. There may be somebody out there who knows this whole situation better than I do, but I haven't met that person yet. One thing I wanted to point out, if whoever's controlling the screen here could move toward the back of this parcel. Keep going. Okay, and to the right, the back right corner. All right, it doesn't show it here, but that back right corner is the drainage area you were asking about. We had a discussion, had talked about this, addressed this back corner here where the water drains out. It does cross our property, just so you know, our back property there, just a tad. It's not a big deal, but it may be a good time to discuss, you know, one of the things that we need to discuss with the survey is the drainage back there. It wouldn't take much to reroute it so that the water coming off of this parking lot is actually not crossing our property. And it's a very small area, but water tends to pool up there if the snow gets plowed incorrectly. So.
Okay, so I think that these are all things that really should be discussed and brought back to us for the next meeting. I like I said, I really think that there's a common ground here that
there is. I think so too. Thank you so much. I just wanted to thank Cobb.
Well, I'm glad that you guys are, the relationship seems to be working okay, and I hope that continues. Ellen, did you have something to add?
Yeah, and I agree. I just want to be clear on the issues that you're asking us to follow up on so that we're prepared and provide that information to you before, which it would be the 24th. Is that the same date that we would be continuing to?
I think that's right, Jeff. Does that make sense? To continue this to the 24th as well?
We can certainly discuss it, but I mean, if we're talking about multiple parties getting together and talking about a survey,
maybe more time.
Well, it may be an update, but I don't know that we'll have moved the dial. We can discuss it. I do want to know, just for clarity, that a couple other people have their hand raised as well.
Yeah. So Ellen, I guess to your question, I mean, at least as of right now, what I'm thinking is, first of all, this issue with Mountain View Road or Mountain View Street and what that is.
I have that, and I know the survey question and now the drainage question. I just want to make sure if there's anything else that.
I think that's what we have so far, but we got more hands raised. We'll see.
Sure. Okay.
All right, Jennifer.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. So I'm Jennifer Cernak regarding the 102 North Hampton Street. And I know, I think there was, with my brother Jeff in particular, I think communicating with Jeff Bagg, some issues, you know, he had some questions about Mountain View. If it had been a private way that my grandfather and Rick's uncle, I think, had started to build, you know, way back in the day, and it's been used by the businesses and the properties that have, you know, maintained it and that go along the borders of Mountain View. So primarily they were Cernak Fuel, so now, which is, you know, Hop Energy, and Cernak Buick, which of course we are renting to Apical. So I know my father at some point had asked Mark Tanner what kind of document they were looking for about using that way. And we had provided, or my father had provided, a letter regarding the use of Mountain View Way. So I know that issue wasn't just completely ignored, and we were trying to address it, you know, saying, Mark Tanner, being the town attorney, and he was familiar.
Okay, so he might have some knowledge about that too.
Sorry, I won't interrupt. Never mind. My apologies.
I'm sorry.
Is that the end, Jennifer? You got more to say?
Yeah, we had just, you know, consulted with Mark Tanner, the attorney for the town, and he had also been our attorney a number of years ago regarding Mountain View Way, and had some information about the property as well. So we were, you know, making sure we addressed any concerns about the use of the private way.
Okay. I'm not aware of any conversations with the city attorney, so we should follow up on that.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. Curtis, did you have something?
Yeah, and I apologize for interrupting there. I had my hand raised for the exact same comment. On October 7th, we got actually later than October 7th, during the October 20th update, we got a letter from the applicant that's addressed from Kenneth S. Cernak, representing 102 Northampton Street LLC and Cernak Buick Inc., stating Mountain View Street, a glorified private drive, has been exclusively used and exclusively maintained by the Cernak family since 1938. And I'm going to elide a bit here. It says in return for their use of the private way, Apical has agreed to assist in the ongoing services and maintenance of the private way. This is to inform you that the Cernak family is permitting Apical Inc. to use the private way, also known as Mountain View Street, for as long as Apical Inc. is leasing the 102 Northampton Street property from us. That does not clarify everything about about what that street represents, but that letter was provided to our office and is in the same folder under the original submittals folder. It's the last item in that folder. And
okay, so there is some information in the file about that, and maybe that question is answered. But
I can't, and I want to express that I can't comment as to the degree to which that letter clarifies every legal question associated with that.
Yep. Okay. I still see a virtual hand for Leslie Cernak. Leslie, do you have something else to say, or is it still just from before? You're good? Okay. Kat, yeah?
Yes, I actually had a question for Leslie and Rick. I know we've been working really well together. They've been really good people. Mark, can we scroll down to the curb cut real quick? Actually, can you just back off of it a little bit so we can see that area there where the line is? So on the we know what it looks like. I mean, there's a GIS map that shows the plot lines per parcel. And my question for Rick and Leslie is, okay, now if a survey is complete, right? Now, what is the expectations for this area? Did you guys want us to put pot plants up to block those barriers in the back there? I'm not sure what the reasoning is for.
Yeah.
Is the type of
I really do, Con, I'm sorry to cut you guys off. I really do want you guys to have this conversation, but I think that it probably should happen outside the public hearing, because I don't think that we need to be involved in that if you guys can work out that sort of boundary and what you want to do there. So I do think you should have that conversation. I just don't think it needs to be here. Does that make sense to you, Kat? Is that okay?
Well, yeah, it does. It's just the question came up, and I just wanted to understand it a little bit. So that way, I mean, what's the real reasoning for it? I'm not sure either. Is it for safety? What is it for?
So why don't you guys have that conversation and see if you can work it out? And if you can't, we can talk about this at our next hearing. But I just want to, I think the more of that happens, just between the parties, the better it'll be for everyone.
Okay.
Okay. Any other members of the public with any comments or questions? All right, I don't see anyone. Planning board members, any other comments or questions?
Me, Jesse.
James.
Mr. Rick Cernak brought up a great question that I didn't think to answer, or I missed it. And that was about the snow removal. Can you comment about where you're putting all the snow?
Sal, want to address that?
Yeah, I can comment. That's the purpose for all those areas that are hashed, that are not parking spaces, like you would see any other, large parking area would be left for the snow.
So your plan is to place the snow in some of those hashed mark areas and not in front of the spots?
Correct.
Okay.
And we have more than ample spaces, so if we had to use some of the spaces in the back, we could, but...
Yeah, I just want to be a little more specific with it, because there's a lot of gray all around. So the plan is to kind of put some down below when the gray near Northampton Street, and then maybe some above you have to, but it could go in any of those spots.
That's correct, and you don't want to put it all in one spot anyways. It's not going to melt fast enough, so... Okay.
Any other comments or questions from planning board members? Okay, so I do think the question about continuing, we need to continue, obviously. I'm not sure if the 24th is enough time for everyone to get together. Ellen, do you have a suggestion?
Well, yeah, I would just ask, because I guess I'm being optimistic that we can.
Okay.
But so if it's possible to keep the 24th, and then if we still need more time, we could ask for a continuance, but I would just hate if we were ready and then had to wait longer. So I know.
Okay. I think we can shoot for the 24th.
Do you want to go for, it'll be our second meeting because we just obviously pushed another meeting to 6 o'clock. Do you want to say 7 for this? And of course, it really might be a little later. We don't know, but I don't think we can go earlier. 7?
We just
let's
6:30.
6:30.
Because that way, if it is early,
we don't want that gap, that horrible gap, James.
Yeah.
That's
okay,
fine.
so
We're fine.
6:30.
Yeah.
Okay, one moment, please. I motion to continue the special permit for Apical Inc. till November 24th at 6:30.
A second.
All right. To continue to November 24th, Chris.
Aye.
James.
Aye.
Harry.
Aye.
Austin.
Aye.
Brenda.
Aye.
And I am an aye. All right. So, folks, thanks again, and we will see you on the 24th. Best of luck in your conversations between now and then.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
So, moving on, realizing that it is 9 o'clock. I don't know how. I think we should probably get this one started, though, and hopefully no one will revolt. So moving on, public hearing for Investment Real Estate LLC seeking site plan approval under 12.9 and Table 5.1 for the construction of a new office building structure and associated driveways, parking areas, and associated site work to expand an existing self-storage use at 9 Coleman Road, Southampton, Main Street rear, Easthampton. Someone here to give us an overview on this project?
Right here, yes. So Jeff Squire from the Berkshire Design Group.
Excellent. Thank you for your patience.
Not a problem. We saved the best to last. If I've got...
Jeff, we've obviously looked at all of these materials, but I'm not sure that all the public has. So if you want to just give us a quick overview of sort of everything, that might be the most helpful.
I will try to be real brief. And yeah, do I have screen sharing capabilities?
Jeff, would you mind giving Jeff Squire screen co-host?
So while waiting for that, so this is an existing self-storage facility, move-in self-storage at 9 Coleman Road. It's roughly a 9-acre parcel at the corner, really, of Route 10 and Coleman Road. The parcel is unique in that it is. Oh, okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, as long as this works, just communicate if you need anything. Sure,
that's fine. The parcel is unique in that it's divided by the municipal line. So half of the parcel is located in Easthampton on the upper portion of the page. Southern portion is located in Southampton. The project is just seeking to construct a freestanding 50 square foot, 20 square foot office building and 4 adjacent parking spaces to serve the existing facility. It'll be a freestanding building, a couple of parking spaces. They expect one office inside, but it's really just to have a place that folks can go and rent the units from. The project did require a variance because of the lack of adequate frontage in Easthampton. So we did receive a variance for the project on September 2nd of this year from the zoning board to allow this to move forward. So we are here now before you for the building itself.
Jeff, just to clarify, is there going to be more construction of more storage units, or is it really just the office space and the parking for that?
Right now, they originally were anticipating the construction of either 6 or 8 additional storage units. But ironically, because of the way the wetland fees work and the notice of intent permitting work out, it was the application fees were in excess of $17,000. So they were having a tough time justifying construction of storage units for that amount of money. So right now, the project has been reduced to just be the office building.
Okay. And so is there an office building on site right now that's being expanded, or there's no administrative building on site, right?
No.
Okay. Any questions from planning board members? Mr. Zarvis.
So I reviewed the materials. They were very complete. Thank you. At least I felt. I do have a couple questions, but really just one for now. I was a little confused in this as I was reading through the materials. How is the town of Southampton involved in this? Do you go before their boards as well?
Well, so the original application or the original project, which conceived the construction of additional storage units, did require, a permit from Southampton. But given that all of this construction is just within Easthampton, it only requires Easthampton Planning Board review.
So I see some trees at the very bottom there on Coleman Road, which is clearly on their side. Are those pre-planted trees or are those new trees?
Good point. Yes. So 2 of the trees are existing. The 2 on the outer flanks are existing. In reference to the zoning ordinance, which requires additional screening from residential units or adjacent residential units or parcels, we felt that in speaking to that zoning ordinance, we offered up the planting of a couple of additional trees to help screen, additional screening for those residential parcels across the street. But yes, they are located in Southampton.
It doesn't require any approval from them.
Well, no. I mean, those planting of trees, probably not.
Yeah, that's generally not a zoning issue, but it does impact our analysis, so I appreciate that. Jeff, is this a new driveway that's coming in here, or is it just parking spaces you're constructing on that side of the driveway there? Jeff, are you there? Did we lose you?
I think you might be frozen.
There you go. You're back.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, different Jeff.
Jeff Squire.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll give him a minute and see if he can come back in.
I'd like to take a look at some of the topography there in the back. It looks like it's fairly steep. I'm trying to get a sense of, is that downward? I think it drops, right?
There he is. There he is.
Sorry about that.
No problem, Jeff. So I was asking about the parking spaces there. The driveway looks like it's existing, but the new parking spaces are just being constructed on the side. Is that right?
Correct. Exactly.
Okay.
So they have an existing access easement through that parcel to gain access to theirs. So correct.
Gotcha. All right. I'm sorry, Brenda. Yeah.
Quick question about the driveway. Is the traffic flow pattern going to change at all? What's the impact to traffic going in and out of there? What are you thinking about that?
No, I think the entrance on Coleman Road serves as the primary access in and out of the facility, and I don't think that'll change at all. With this proposal, it'll simply be a place for patrons to stop and rent storage space, but they'll enter and exit the same place.
Okay.
And that's a Freedom Credit Union right now, is that right?
I believe it is, yes.
Okay.
I see you have a sewer hookup there, so you're going into public services, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And how many employees do you expect will be in that office generally?
They only anticipate 1.
Okay. Jim, I'm sorry, when we were having technical difficulties, you had a question about elevation maybe?
Well, it was really just about water. Now that I see that they're going into the public source, that's fine, but I may as well ask it. In the back here, I'm not able to see very clearly in the Zoom, and because I'm looking at this, I don't have the other screen open. Can you tell me if the topography in the back is going down? Is that what I'm seeing, where it gets a little like over to the western side there? I'm not sure that's actually west, but...
Yeah, so that side of the property is all primarily wetlands.
It's wetlands. Okay.
And I think Jim, I think it runs down to the bike path that's back there, if I'm right.
Yeah.
It's sort of, there's a little valley there.
Okay. And none of that's being touched. That whole area in the back, all the wetlands is untouched. Is the dashed line sort of the demarcation?
So the heavy dashed line that loops around it is the buffer zone.
That's the buffer zone. Got it. Okay. All right. Sorry about that, Jesse.
No problem. Any other questions from planning board members? Harry?
This may sound crazy, but who's responsible in case there's a fire there?
Interesting.
That's a good question. I don't know that answer.
Southampton or Easthampton? I mean, which one? I mean, I don't know. I'm just curious.
My guess is they'll both respond.
So is there a bathroom facility? Well, I mean, you say that you're connecting to the sanitary source in that building. We just see a little square, not much about it. And it's only 750 square feet. Is it like one room or in a closet for a bathroom or what?
There'll be a small, half bath, obviously there's be toilet and a sink. I think there'll be a single office and then probably a meeting space, or a table, small conference room kind of thing.
How tall is it?
There were elevations that were submitted. I don't know. I mean, it's a single story and a half, maybe, sort of a barn type structure.
Yeah, I can't quite see the full height, Jim, but there are drawings.
It says 23 feet, 9 1/4 inches to the roof ridge.
Excellent.
Okay.
There is a cupola, though, up to, which is lovely. It's 28 feet, 1 inch up to the top of the cupola.
And will this be visible from Main Street?
I'm sure it probably will be through the parking lot, sure, and that intersection. I don't think there's a lot of obstructions in the vegetated islands there, so I'm sure it will be visible.
Jeff, what are you doing for trash removal for the office? Is there a plan there?
No, I mean, so they're going to have a single, small trash can, office trash can. I suspect there's no plans for a dumpster or trash removal on the site. I suspect that whoever that employee is will simply just take that trash home or put it somewhere appropriate. But there's no plans for, trash removal at this site specifically.
And it says no new lighting too, right? There'll be no additional lighting.
Right. So we did note in the follow-up material that there will be one. Actually, it was noted in the letter as a wall sconce, but it's actually it'll be an undermounted, a ceiling-mounted light right under the canopy of the front door.
Okay.
But it'll be it's just a low
downward
level.
Facing.
Yes.
Any new signage?
No new signage. There's already existing signage out there, so this is, they don't need any additional signs.
A small sign at the entrance door. Does that sound right?
I think there's a small office. Small office placard or something.
Okay.
This all seems like a no-brainer to me at this point.
Any other questions from planning board members?
No.
Just quickly, Jeffrey, on the elevation, it shows kind of a hash mark area that says adjacent proposed storage building by others. That was the project you were referring to okay.
Correct.
Thanks.
Any comments or questions from the public? If you want to either raise a virtual hand or unmute and ask to speak. I only see a couple people sitting here listening. It doesn't look like anybody wants to chime in.
Still like a motion for approval of the site plan?
Yeah, let's just quickly go through the conditions real quick, Jim, just so I can make sure we're covering everything. Conformance with the provisions of the ordinances of the city of Easthampton, the general laws of Massachusetts, and all applicable rules and regulations of state and federal agencies. I think we've covered that. Protection of city amenities and abutting properties through the minimizing of any detrimental or offensive uses or destruction of unique or important natural, scenic, or historic features on the site. Don't think we have any of that here. Convenience and safety of vehicular and pedestrian movement within the site and in relationship to adjoining ways and properties. It looks like that drawing shows that it sort of fits in with the driveway that's already there, and there's no real pedestrian travel. Adequacy of the methods of disposal and sewage and refuse and the drainage of surface and subsurface water. It's not really adding much of anything to that, and there's just one bathroom in there. Adequate means of protecting wetlands, watersheds, aquifers, and well areas. It's not impacting that. Mitigation of adverse impacts on the city's resources, including the city's water supply and distribution, sewage collection and treatment, fire protection, and streets. This is pretty minimal impact, if anything. Off-street loading and unloading of vehicles, incidental to the normal operation of the establishment, parking, lighting, and internal traffic control. Jeff, is there any sort of deliveries or stuff that you guys are getting, or is it just going to be brought in by employees like office supplies?
Right. Yeah. So it'll just be, office deliveries.
Okay. Applicants' efforts to integrate the development into the existing landscape through design features such as vegetative buffers and retention of open space or agricultural land. Talked about the buffering that you're putting up for the residential place across the street. And the rest of the open space is being preserved. Minimization of the area over which existing vegetation is to be removed. Where tree removal is required, special attention is to be given to the planting of replacement trees. Do you have to take any trees down here, Jeff, for this building?
No, it's all grass right now.
Okay. And in fact, you're adding a couple trees as part of your buffer anyway. And then the last one, consistency of the development with respect to setback, area, placement of parking, architectural style, and landscaping of the surrounding buildings and development. It seems to me like it's pretty consistent with that. Any planning board members have any questions or concerns with any of those areas? All right, I will take a motion then.
I motion to approve the site plan approval for Investment Real Estate LLC.
Seconded.
All right, to approve the site plan approval, Harry.
Aye.
Brenda.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
James.
Aye.
Austin.
Aye.
And I am an aye. All right, Jeff, well done. Best of luck.
Thank you, everyone.
What do we got? Jeff, what's our timeline for a decision here?
I have a drafted decision.
Oh, Curtis. Excellent.
No problem. I have a drafted decision ready right now, and I just kind of punched in with the commentary that y'all provided as per section 12.7.9. I can get you this draft decision with the kind of bullet points punched in tomorrow if you'd like.
Perfect. We'll do that as quick as we can.
Great.
All right.
I just have an important announcement. I want to congratulate Curtis. This is your first special permit that's been passed. Congratulations.
Jeff, best of luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Curtis, I just wanted to say, I almost emailed you this, but I wanted to do it on the record. The memos were really helpful. It's really good to have that kind of in-depth stuff, and it's the more many hands make light work. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So that's good. I appreciate that. This was a long night, folks. Thank you very much. I will gladly take a motion
to adjourn.
I'm sorry, Jeff's going to cut us off.
I rescind my motion.
Just a quick reminder that I'll send out a copy of the agenda tomorrow, I believe, but the planning board has a special meeting November 17th, which is next Tuesday, to discuss and review the 121A application. So
at Chris's request, we're back to meeting every week for the foreseeable future. So
yes, it is.
I didn't continue this meeting. I wanted to continue this one too.
So it's next week, and then the 24th will be the two continuations for Loudville and
Apical,
and then December 1st is Dunkin' Donuts, and then you might have a small reprieve at some point.
We won't know what to do. I motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, to adjourn. Harry.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Brenda.
Aye.
Austin.
Aye.
James.
Aye.
And I am an aye. Thank you all for
Have a
a
lovely
wonderful
evening,
night.
everyone.
Night, everybody.
Good night.
All right.